They tried to erase the signal. They pulled the plug, demonetized, censored, shadow banned. That's what they did to us. But the truth, my friend, will always find the frequency. I call this Operation Airwave Liberation because I'm not just back, I'm broadcasting from ruined. But this time, the airwaves is mine. And this time, it's uncensored. I watched them strip everything that we built. No warning, no explanation, silence, just taking everything away. 300 plus videos, deleted, all gone. And if you think this is about community guidelines, you've not been paying attention. This is a war. This is a digital gulag dressed in a terms of service type of way. They want us gone because we're saying things that they don't like. Maybe we're asking questions because we're curious. They don't like the questions we're asking. Or maybe we refuse to play nice in this echo chamber that we're in. They first hit me with the algorithm. The video is not getting enough views. Then they hit me with the monetization. Well, no money for you. But guess what? They forgot to hit my will. They thought that'll be enough. It's gonna cave and it's gonna run away. But guess what I did? I rebuilt, I rewired, I learned the game behind the curtains and see how they operate. I'm not just back. We're launching Operation Airwave Liberation. No filters, no masters, just signals. The signal they tried to block, but this time is very strong. The wind can't even penetrate through this. This, my friend, isn't just about me. It's about all of us. Every single voice that's been cancelled, clipped and used in the wrong way by the media. From now on moving forward, I'm not just creating content anymore. I'm sorry. I'm building a resistance on camera, off grid and above the algorithm. And if you are watching this, you are the resistance. This channel isn't just a platform. This is a broadcast tower for the truth. I'm glad I'm back. Ladies and gentlemen, patriots, truth seekers, digital warriors, welcome back to the show. Folks, this is not going to be just another stream. This is one of those moments where the temperature will probably change in whichever room my guests are occupying. I think this is a time where the situation we're in, we need a little bit of clarity. And I think this podcast or this live stream will probably give us a lot of that. If not, then it will expose the fracture within the group that a lot of us have had hopes in. I don't know about you guys, but the past couple weeks, couple days now, there's been a lot of speculation. What is Advance doing? What are they doing? You know, all these speculation going forward. A lot of noise, a lot of people, giving their opinions, these anonymous accounts. But today we have the people who have a lot of control within the party, who knows a lot that we don't know. And I think it's important that we have these guys on. First of all, we have our guest, Richard Thompson. He's the national director of Advance UK. This man is the center of basically the whole storm. Whether you agree with him or not, is somebody who doesn't shy away from tough questions, tough answers, tough situations. And he's here to face everything head on. And of course, how can we forget the amazing Sarah White? Now, she's been around. She's been everywhere. She'll be joining us today. She's a person who speaks for herself. She's a rising star. She's a future candidate. Somebody whose name has been coming up in every single conversation when we talk about the future of Britain. And I think it's important, since she speaks for herself and she's aligned herself with Advance UK, it's important that we have her here, because a lot of speculations have been coming out saying, hey, what is Sarah White going to do? And I think today we're going to find out. Folks, buckle up, because this is going to be very important, because tomorrow we also have Ben Habib on. So tune in. And of course, you're going to have the chance to ask your questions live here. But thank you so much for joining us here at the Baraka Show, Richard and Sarah. How you doing?
I'm good. How are you, Barak?
Well, I'm trying to hold it together. Trying to hold it together. How you doing, Richard?
I'm good. I'm good. Thank you. Absolute pleasure to be here.
Yeah. I don't know. I want to start with Richard first because I think I've spoke to Sarah so many times. Not so many times, but I've had a lot of conversation with Sarah. But I would like to start with Richard. Richard, who who is Richard Thompson? I mean, we've I've met you one time. I've spoke to you in real life one time. That was when I wanted you to share a picture on your phone to my phone. I don't know if you remember that last week. I think 2 weeks ago in London. And apart from that, I've never really spoke to you. Who is Richard? Could you tell us how you got yourself in this position today, where you're a national uh, director at Advance UK?
Okay. Yeah. Good question. I'm not an avatar or an AI, generated person. You have met me physically, and I do remember. In fact, you were doing a great job at streaming the event for us in the Emmanuel Centre. So, yeah, thank you very much for that, Barak. So, um, yeah, I mean, my name is Richard Thompson. I started my, I suppose, professional career in the Royal Marines. I was a Royal Marine Commando for 8 years. Did two tours of duty in Afghanistan, and then I thought, it was probably I achieved what I wanted to achieve at that point, and was faced with a decision to either stay, for my 22 years, which would be the sort of full service, or to leave and try my hand at other things. So I decided at that point, as a crossroads, sliding doors moment for me. I decided I was going to leave, and I started doing a bit of maritime security. Which, if anyone's seen the film Captain Phillips, it's a bit like that. You deter pirates off the coast of Africa.
Right.
And then I did a complete career change and I went into the financial technologies industry. I worked for a very large company and worked my way up to the sort of vice president position for that company.
Mm.
And as I started to do that, and as I had left the services, I became a bit more, I suppose, aware, politically, about what was being done, how the country was being run. And like most people, I probably had a good awakening around the Brexit time, around the referendum, things like that. And then subsequently after that, of the just absolutely catastrophic handling of the Brexit withdrawal. And on top of that, I think that I would say that that was half of the reasons of why I got involved in politics. And then the second half was probably a bit more personal to me. I noticed that there was a lot of loopholes around sort of family court, and I wanted to do something and activate some change. And that's how I really got into being a bit of an activist, I would say. So there's a few things that personally, as a personal project, I'm trying to accomplish with that. But as I did that, I found myself drawn more and more towards politics and trying to affect change. And I stumbled across a gentleman called, Ben Habib, and I really liked the way that he spoke with clarity, and everything that he said really came from holding the United Kingdom as the fundamental principle of which everything sort of branches from, and that really spoke to me. And I think that his integrity and honesty is sort of, as I've got to know him personally as well as through politics, has really sort of you know inspired, I suppose, myself and a lot of other people to sort of pick up the baton and really try to affect change in a positive way for this country. I don't know how I've quite got this in the position I'm at now, but I think my background within the military and the Royal Marines has meant that I've sort of really applied myself and exceptionally motivated, much to the detriment, I would say, of my wife, who's getting a bit fed up of not having her weekends with me at the moment. But she fully supports and knows how much I put into it. And you keep doing that, and you keep doing everything that you can do, and it comes from a place of passion and pride for the country. And eventually, I suppose, you end up in positions where you can inspire more people, and that's what I really hope to do.
Yeah, it looks like you have a lot of experience on yourself from being in the Royal Marine, going out there, saying I'm the captain now, to coming out and being more a public service in a sense, in the actual like proper, where you have to listen to the normal citizens, where they're like, "Hey, I don't like this policy," and you're like, "Oh," you try to reason with them. That's a huge humbling, and still a way to still serve people, but different place and different space. Now, Advanced UK has obviously been launched. It's been a couple months. It's not been a year yet. but it's gained a lot of momentum. It's gained its space within the right of politics, and it's caused a lot of shock into the establishment, meaning that just unknown face just appears to be capturing a lot of people's attention. I mean, I'm sure you've been at the center of that. You've contributed to that. How did Advance grow this fast? I want to ask you that before we go into this whole thing that's going on today, because I think it actually grew so fast.
Oh, it did. It did. I mean, for context, um, we set ourselves and we've imposed that hurdle of 30,000 members. And, that was set really because of, in discussions, Ben had realised that when Reform UK stood at the general election in 2024, they had that many people, they had that many members, and they knew that they could campaign effectively with that many people, because you need supporters, you need people that are loyal and want to really sort of be on this journey with you. You can't do anything without the public's backing, and it did two things. It served as a benchmark for us to achieve that figure, so that we knew that we had the backing of the people. But it also served. I mean, there's lots of different parties that you could argue are right of centre, but having a party that had that 30,000 members really sort of demonstrated the appetite for this party. And
Yeah.
we did that in, I think it was about nine weeks or something like that. It took Reform, I think, 5.5 years to achieve it, and it took Advance UK 9.5 weeks to get there. And then obviously we triggered the electoral commission's submissions and things like that, which is very slow and laborious. But we got through the electoral commissions, and now we're, I suppose, in phase two, where we're rolling out policies, we're setting up branches, we're putting in that structure in place where our members get to actually give us feedback on our policies, inform us on our policies. They can
Right.
campaign for us, they can stand for us. It very much is continuation of that rapid growth.
Yeah. Yeah, it's going so fast. I can say when Ben Habib said, "Hey, I'm gonna put 100K once we hit 30,000 members," I was thinking, okay, give him another year. We'll see what we'll get a little bit of update later on, and then it's like, hey, because weeks it goes so fast, especially being in politics. There's news every day. There's news every day. It felt like it happened within 1 month or something. And then boom, I'm seeing posters like 30, 30, we've hit 30. I'm like, what? That was so quick. And of course, is you were the person at the back pulling the strings. Now I want to come to you, Sarah. Sorry, you've been listening, thinking, hey, am I gonna come in this? But
No,
you've been I'll say in the last 2 years or maybe a year, full on year, you've been at the center when it came to like the right, when it's like the people who just want to unite and the people who want new faces into politics. I think your face and your name has been the top of everybody's. You've had, to use Thompson's name, to use Thompson's word, that people have an appetite for you in a sense where they want you in. And you was at the you was obviously with Reform, and now of course you are Advanced Sarah. You obviously joined in with Richard. What was it that Richard was doing that kind of magnet you in the sense where you felt like, Reform is not it?
do you know what it was? I joined Reform and got into politics because I could see that there needed to be a drastic change in politics, because
Right.
working class people aren't even underrepresented. We're not represented at all. And I believe that you need people that represent the country and its people, and that is by someone like myself and like Richard with his background as well. And I just see that I got into politics, like I said, got into Reform, was going to be a candidate or was a candidate for them to be a potential councillor. And my views and my morals never changed. Unfortunately, theirs did. And then they become the party that I could no longer be a part of. And then I was left stranded and not knowing who to turn to. And
Right.
Advance had kind of emerged from something wonderful, really. And everyone in there, it's just one big happy family. And I'm proud and happy to have been welcomed in with open arms, and everyone has treated me with respect, and basically it's like they've wrapped a blanket around me because they're fully aware that I don't come from a political background. However, I know what's right and I stand by my morals. And that is why I will continue to stay loyal to Advance and all of its members.
Right. So a lot of people have I don't know, obviously you're the one in it. I'm not in it. A lot of people inside Advance UK have mentioned that a lot of females, I would say, have mentioned that the treatment they've received within Advance UK in terms of like, based on their gender has been very different. Has been something that you have, you instantly notice how welcoming and how easy it is for a female to thrive within the party. Is that something that you've seen as well?
100%. Yeah, I don't see myself as anything.
And what is different compared to how other political party treats women? And using an example of what just happened the last weekend, recently, a couple of days ago, with Reform UK announcing their shadow cabinet, and Sarah Pochin did not receive anything, even though she is an MP in this. Talk to me. How's it like, the treatment in terms of female in there?
I'll be honest, I think since Sarah Pochin joined Reform, I think that you've seen that she's not been treated as an equal to any one of the other MPs that are standing for Reform. And I believe that in Advance, I'm treated as equal to anybody else who is either a member or, no matter, even Ben, he looks at us as all equal. And nobody is discriminated for anything, whether that's sexuality, colour, or whatever it may be. And I feel like I'm part of the family, and I don't feel like I'm insignificant in any way. And it's just something to be, I've been welcomed with open arms. Like I say, it's really quite special. I was part of Reform, and I never felt like I was really viewed as a potential councillor. It was like as if, well, you're here to make up the numbers at the moment, and as soon as someone better comes in, you're going to be jogged on.
Right. Now, I want to come to you, Richard, because you see, in the terms of like the word family has been used a lot in politics. Not many in recent days has been used. Like, hey, given the post that I seen with Matt Goodwin posted saying, hey, come to canvas with us, be a big family and blah blah blah. Hey, this is you're gonna contribute to this new history. Blah, blah. It was more like the language was very more like, come in and you're gonna miss out, and you're part of the family. You have to do it for the brothers and sisters. That's the language that's been used, not just in the Labour Party. The Labour Party right now is being investigated for saying, hey, come vote for us, we're going to give you food. It's like, it's getting so like, hey, what's going on here? Now, the reason why I was giving you all that context is because the question I want to ask you is about, there's a lot of people branding, not only you, but they're also branding Restore and Reform as a cult, in the sense where you guys are like a little, it's just together, like, hey, don't do this, don't come out this little bubble. Is there a sort of thing that I'm not saying I'm not asking you if it's a cult, but I'm saying, is that something that just grows within itself and be like, hey, we're gonna just protect ourselves and invite people in? And I've not seen any sort of ill treatment from Advance UK to others, but I've seen a lot from other parties doing so. And how have you guys managed to make sure it's not branded as a cult? But a lot of people still say it is a cult, in a sense where everybody's like, hey, Ben, talk to me about that.
Well, I mean,
the question properly here.
The reason that is that there's no criticism that people can really throw at us, right? The party's set up democratically. We don't have any, messiah complexes or big egos. When you have someone that starts to genuinely threaten, someone who's living in a glass house, then they want to throw the stones. So it's easier to deflect, and they say, oh, Ben, and for example, they'll say things like bitter Ben, or they'll say, oh, Ben, it's his ego party where he wants to damage, Reform. To be fair to Ben, he's taken on a lot, personally, in terms of commitments that it takes to do this, as well as financially as well. And he's set up a party that can remove him quite easily if it's seen that he's not taking it in the right direction. And he's actively brought in people to challenge him as well. People have respect for Ben because Ben's earned that respect. There's a big difference between people at the top of other parties, and I say that in all parties. If you was to message Ben, you'll get a response pretty sharpish. It'll be very polite and it'll be very considered, and you know that you'll be listened to. When things happen generally, and I wasn't involved as the national director or anything like that at all, a number of years ago, he would respond, he would talk, he would happily meet up with people, and he would do that with absolutely everybody, absolutely everyone. And he listens because he understands that he comes from the world from a different perspective, and he needs to get all people's perspectives. That's why Advance has got such a diverse group on the college. That's why it's got such a diverse group of speakers, and that's why it's got such a strong foundation and backing. So I would say that's if people are criticizing Advance that way, then they have got no idea what Advance is, and they should send me an email or message Ben, because we'll get back to you and we'll talk to you. And then if you was a member of us, I mean, we've seen it recently, and I won't name names or parties, where it was high profile. It was put in the news that someone left a particular party, joined another party, and then left because they wasn't happy with that one. You don't get that with Advance because people are supported. My phone's been going off the hook really since I started in this endeavour as the national director, speaking to councillors that are being, I suppose, treated unfairly by other councillors from other parties. We put an arm around them. We're a very small party within its infancy. As we grow, we'll make sure that got people that will be able to put their arm around people to make sure that they're supported, make sure that they're heard. So I would say if people are criticising Advance, I've never heard that, at least. But if you've heard people say that, I would say that there's a lot of people out there, especially with the right being a bit fragmented and things like that, and people seemingly feeling like they're entitled to people's votes. Right. You get a lot of unfortunate people that are very emotional, should we say, and they're saying some rather unpleasant things.
Yeah, I think we're gonna get into that. It looks like in the past couple of days, I don't know about you, but the people on Twitter have been very vile on both sides, and they've been attacking random people who does not basically post the same logo as them, who does not chant the same slogan as them. And this has been happening on the right. Before it used to be right and left, but now it's just right fighting the right. And I want to get more. I want to dive deep into that, but I want to switch to Sarah. I want to keep this engaged. If this is the first time we've done two people at the same time, so hey, give the Baraka show a like, all right? Now, Sarah, you are, I think, a lot of people are banking on you in a sense where a lot of advanced loyalists, I'll say, a lot of people who are standing firm with Advance are backing on you in terms in the next future person who runs will be probably you. But then there's a lot of people on the other side who are thinking, hey, Sarah, you're wasting your time. There's a new shiny little, shiny new object here, which will take you far and quicker than any other vehicle. Now, to the people who are watching this, hoping that they get their way, could you tell us what is your future at Advance UK?
I see my future at Advance UK as being an MP in the future. That's where I see myself. And I'm not going to be jumping ship just because something all of a sudden has come up out the ground. That's not what you do. You stay loyal to what you've decided to go with. And like I said before, yes, I joined Reform, and people could say, well, you jumped ship then. I jumped ship because their views and their morals changed. Mine didn't. Advance are the party that I believe that my political beliefs and my morals and convictions all align with. So why would I jump ship just because another party has bloomed? And let's face it, everyone thought Reform was the answer. Right. Is Restore going to be is Restore just going to be another Reform? They're going to promise the world, and then all of a sudden they change their direction. And at the end of the day, I believe in Ben and I believe in Advance UK, and I will be loyal to them, and I've showed that, and hence the reason I wasn't putting out posts in support of Rupert. I haven't got a problem with Rupert. I like Rupert and I wish him all the best. However, my loyalties are with Advance and with Ben.
Right. I want to bring both of you guys on this topic now, since it looks like we're stepping in a danger zone now. In the very, very feisty debate has been going on in this zone. Now I want to bring Richard. Richard, you've been with Ben since the beginning, I'm assuming. I don't know how early from the party, but you've been there since the beginning. How does it make you feel to see that people joined and said all the nice, lovely stuff about Ben, about you, about the party, and then you see the same people posting the, literally vile comments about Ben and telling him to fold the party, telling him he's breaking the vote, and advocating that restore is the only way? How does that make you feel? And do you have any response to those guys?
Well, obviously everyone's entitled to their opinion, and I think that things will come out in the wash in time, right? We do us. We know what we stand for, and we will continue to do that. And I'm happy for people to think critically about who they're supporting and why they're supporting people. I think that's really important. One of the biggest things we're trying to do is to actually get the 19 million people that didn't vote registered to vote and to have their voice. And we're going to go about that doing things our way, in a democratic structure with principles and things like that. What I think I find quite, I suppose, difficult in the political world is how narrative is reality rather than objective reality being reality. And it's a shame, because when people see things on social media and they believe that this is, the truth, this is what's happened, it is quite, frustrating when you're desperately trying to reach those people and speak to them in a way that they, are going to be responsive to. But like I said, I think that all of that will come out. For people that are saying, right, okay, well, Advance should just fold and shut up shop, you have to realise that without Advance, there's just Reform. There is no Restore Britain at the moment. Whether that comes down the line or not, genuinely, I don't know. They've announced it, yeah. Do they have as many members as they say?
I'm going to jump in. So you say there's no Restore Britain right now. What do you mean? What do you mean by that?
There's no, they haven't gone to the Electoral Commission. And I think that, the more that they announce councillors that are Restore councillors, I would just say to the chaps that are running Restore to really look at the Electoral Commission rules. They need to ensure that they are complied with. And, that's one of those things that could be a big pitfall for them, because there is no application with the Electoral Commission. They're a movement right now. I know that they've got the full intention of doing that, but there is a process in doing it. I'm in support of anybody, genuinely. I'm in support of anybody setting something up that is wanting to take the country in the right direction. So that, so I would love to be able to work with anybody doing that. I don't see Reform doing that. I do see in a lot of ways Restore doing that, and that's why Ben has opened the door firmly, put the ball in Rupert's court to say, let's have a meaningful discussion about that. But if we just hear that there's a new video that's come out announcing a party and we should all just walk away, well, then they're underestimating our resolve and the crisis at hand that the country's in. So,
with that comment, I just want to follow up with that, because when, of course, this is a question I was going to ask Ben, but since you've mentioned it, it's important that I ask you as well. Now, the party was launched on Friday, and within a couple hours, maybe 16 hours, Ben Habib came out to reach out for a deal, for a merger, and he urged a lot of Advance UK supporters to support Restore. And a lot of people were very confused what's going on. And of course, now I think the smoke is slowly coming down, dust is silently settling, and now it looks like Advance is just gonna keep advancing forward. But on Saturday, Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, I'll probably say Wednesday, we were all confused, meaning like, hey, are we going to this side or are we just gonna, stay in the middle and hope for the best? And you just mentioned that a party shouldn't just, no one should just post a video and everybody. Well, it shouldn't be normal for somebody to just post a video and everybody ship the shit, change the course of the mission. But your party leader did exactly that. A video was released, got millions of views. He came out, he was utterly delighted, to quote him. And he was urging his supporters to basically look the other way.
I disagree.
Yeah, I mean, ladies first, by all means.
You want to come in that?
Sorry, Richard. I disagree. I think Ben was laying his cards on the table and saying it would be nice to have a merger because Ben cares so much about the country. And that's one thing with everybody in Advance. We care so deeply about the country, and it's about country first, party second. So Ben put the olive branch out and was like, if there is a chance of us merging together, then it would be completely welcomed by everybody in Advance. Why not? However, people read what they want into a message. It wasn't us saying, and it wasn't Ben saying, we are now all jumping to Restore. It was just saying there is that offer there and it would be nice to work together. Unfortunately, people heard what they wanted and automatically presumed that we was all merging together and that was a done deal. Rupert also had to agree to something like this. The beauty of Advance and why I believe everybody wanted to join Advance is because it's a democratic party with a college that can remove Ben at the drop of a hat because he doesn't deliver on something. That is the way forward, and that is the way this country is going to survive. You need a party that you have a leader that can be held accountable. And with Restore Britain, their leader won't be held accountable by anybody other than himself. So again, that's not a democracy. So I think people should remember why they joined Advance in the first place and where they want our country to be in the future.
Right. Just a quick one. Actually, I'll let you respond to that, Richard, and then I'll come to you back, Sarah.
Yeah, thanks, Baraka. So, I mean, just to complement what Sarah's saying, I mean, Ben didn't say to look the other way to anybody. What he did say to everyone that's looking to Ben, everyone that's a member of Advance UK, is that he was delighted because, like Sarah said, we want to do what's right for the country. Well, there's no egos within Advance. So he held the door firmly open for talks to be done, but one fundamental thing with Advance UK that exists on its own exclusively is that if there was a sit down, which we haven't yet received any, despite the the claim in the video that we should all sit. The invitations are in the mail. No invitations were received. I'm sure that they were notional for the video, but the door was firmly left open for a serious discussion. Now, no acknowledgement of that has happened. The door remains open to have a serious conversation. But what happens after that conversation is important, which I think has been lost in the communications here because all of the hype around everything. What would happen is Ben has that conversation. He then sits down internally with the college, discusses with them what that would mean, what that would look like, what our red lines would be in terms of whether we could progress with that. And then it goes to our members because our members get a say. So if we're not in alignment with that, then obviously we can't. But we would be working, if there was a serious offer, if it was genuine, to do what we could do in order to work together. We recognise that if we want to be as successful as possible, there needs to be a coming together. But as Sarah said, and I've got a lot of respect for Rupert personally. Like I said, there's other reasons I got into politics. I wanted to make effective change in some issues around family court. Rupert has been very supportive of that. For my personal project, he has helped out and he's asked parliamentary questions and he supported a number of things and tweeted out in support of those things, right? So personally, I like Rupert. But if we was to think to ourselves that, right, okay, Restore, if it gets set up as a party or when that happens, we'll deal with all these issues, they're dealing with the issues that Advance has already put policies out. So the video was pretty much announcing Advance's policies as well, in the same order, in fact, if you watch the video. But then what happens, let's say, once Rupert steps down and someone else steps up into that, as Connor Tomlinson put it recently, that Caesar position, the unaccountable position, who doesn't have the same interests and doesn't move in the same direction that his members want to go in. And it's very difficult to remove someone at the top of the tree that hasn't put those structures in place to hold him to account.
Yeah.
And that's a real big problem. That's a real big issue, I feel.
Right. A lot of people are saying the reason why they do not want to merge is because they want a democratic system that Advance already has. And I was reading a lot of comments when we were doing a lot of research, particularly for this podcast. I went to read what these guys have said, so from Restore, and also seeing what you guys have been saying, Advance. Now, there is a lot of people out there on the Restore who do not care about the system. They do not want the system. They want somebody. They say, trust Rupert, he's the man. Why do we need this democratic system? And why is the democratic system so important to you, Richard?
Well, we could end up with another Farage for a start, you know. And like I said, taking Rupert out of the equation, because I'm not saying anything about, what happens when let's say the immigration, that's the most salient issue in British politics. What happens when that issue gets dealt with and there's another issue the country's facing, and Rupert or whoever's in charge then decides that the way that they are going to handle that doesn't reflect the majority, public opinion. Then you then find yourself in a situation where that person cannot be removed. They hold all of the power, and they don't reflect the grassroots. They don't reflect the members. It's very important to have accountability. Otherwise, what's the point of what we're doing?
Yeah.
We see that with Labour at the moment, right? With the way the country is, the opinions of using a real time example of Labour and Keir Starmer is a good one here. Well, what's happening is that the country is systemically broken everywhere. Nothing works, and the way that Labour have things is different to the Tories, where it's much easier to remove a Tory leader than it is a Labour leader. So the civil service stopped because no one's able to grapple with them and get them to bloody work. And then nothing happens. No projects get started. Now, if you could imagine reform or restore in government with that same structure, then it will just be as bad, as catastrophic. You need checks and balances in place, and it will corrupt any individual. I don't care who you are or how brilliant you are as a person. It will corrupt any individual to have absolute control. We need to be able to have a system that isn't top down, that isn't centered around one person, is ground up. And that's democracy, and that's really what this country's been lacking. And that's one of the founding principles of Advance UK, was really to give the power back to the people.
Right. I want to come to you, Sarah, because I think this one's important. I get Sarah in. A lot of people have shown no, I wouldn't say a lot of people. I've seen several comments of Advance UK members showing a lot of frustration towards Rupert on how Ben Habib was treated, in the sense where he launched the party, he didn't tell Ben Habib, no communication that as we don't know of if they had any conversation. It looked like he was, Ben Habib's video, it looked like he was surprised as well, probably because he didn't know. And then the back and forth online, a lot of people think, hey, that should have been handled privately. The phone call should have been handled before the launch. And a lot of Advance UK members are saying, hey, I don't like the way they treated Ben Habib. Do you have any sort of opinion on that? On how Ben Habib was treated, or do you think it was okay how he went down? How he's going down right now?
Do you know what? I believe in a democracy, and I believe in freedom of speech, and I believe everybody's entitled to do whatever they want. So it would be very difficult for me to sit here and say anything negative about Rupert, because at the end of the day, he's entitled to do whatever he wants. He doesn't have to notify anybody that he was setting up a party. He had already set up Restore as a movement, and at the moment it is still a movement. I always think there's a lot of things that should be dealt with in private, behind closed doors. I think there's too many things now that everybody is free to witness everything that's going on, and I just think that this is a massive problem with modern day and age. It's like everything has to be done in the open. And again, you know, Ben was heavily criticised for starting up Advance, and we all believed that that was wrong, the treatment that he received then. So it would be wrong of all of us to say and criticise Rupert. You can't criticise one and not criticise the other. You know, and it's not fair. So yes, things could have been done in private. Do I think that Rupert's wrong for doing what he done? No, because that would be wrong of me to sit here and say that. I think he's entitled to do whatever he wants. All I would say to everybody is, remember why Advance UK was started. Remember what we stand for, who we are, who we represent. We are going to stay strong and steady and make sure that we don't sink, and we will be the ship that sails in. And we will ultimately, I hope, win in the 2029 elections.
With Advance UK, is that what you're saying?
Yeah, with Advance UK, 100%.
Right. That kind of gives a lot of hope to a lot of advanced people out there, because they think anytime, any day from now, Advance will fold, and it looks like that's not the case. Am I correct, Richard?
100% not the case. And just to reiterate what I said, you know, if there is any talks, which there's nothing planned, there's no communications in that respect, but it goes to the members, it goes to the college, it goes through a process of having a voice. We've got a lot of members. You know, we're still growing as a party. Throughout these last few weeks, we're getting more and more members. We're getting more and more councillors. We're announcing more positions, you know, for regions. We're focusing on the elections. We're getting more candidates. We're focusing on good people that will affect change positively in their communities. So we haven't stopped. It's not like we treaded water waiting to see what's going on. We haven't missed a beat. It's still business as usual, and it will still continue to be business as usual. So for all of the members and all of the supporters and everyone else, you know, we haven't stopped doing the same things within our mission statement, the same things within our principles, the same things that we've communicated that we're always doing, and we won't do anything without your knowledge and consent, essentially.
Right. I want to transition this into something that's going on. I think this is an indication that this indicates that Advance is going to move forward. It's going to carry on, and you know, it looks like there is a lot of momentum building on in the back scene. You know, I've spoke to a lot of people within Advance, and they tell me that things are moving forward. It's good that the people at home are also seeing and hearing from you guys as well, which is good. Now, something is taking place tomorrow, Saturday. Could you tell us more about that? What is happening on Saturday?
Absolutely, yeah. So we've got a big day planned. We've Gorton and Denton by-election. We've got the best candidate that's there, a local man who's actually been doing incredible work within that area for the residents for you know, quite literally decades, in fact. So Nick Buckley is our candidate for Gorton and Denton. So we've got a big day. We're going to have a lot of our supporters and members coming down to help canvass, to raise awareness of the party and the candidate, and you know, make a historic impact actually at the election next week.
Right, Sarah, yourself, what is going on? It looks like it's not just going to be people just doing normal stuff, turning up and going door knocking and, you know, doing leafleting. It looks like somebody's going to speak. And for me, I'm getting inside information that you are on the list. What is happening?
I am on the list.
Talk to me.
I am. It's not just me. There's quite a few of us going, and you know, because we all care. Oh,
Sorry, carry on.
Yep. Sorry, the screen went funny then. Yeah, we're all going tomorrow, and we're there because we care so deeply about the local communities. And Gaunton and Denton deserves to have Nick as their representative. You can't have somebody coming in from out the area who doesn't know what the locals want. And he has really, over decades, he literally has put his neck on the line. He's worked on ground level. He knows what the local people want, and he is a true, honest representative for that area. So that's why we're all going up there for this action day tomorrow.
Right. Now, I want to get into policies, but before I do that, I want to also talk about this, because it looks like not many people got to know about this. And I want to go to you, Richard. Why don't the people know about this? Is it because you want just local people turning up? Or is it because you don't want to put too much attention to it? Or there's no hope? Or you want to get it done, but you don't want people to know it's getting done? What's happening? How come not much marketing going out there? This is a frustration that a lot of advanced people have reached out to me. They've basically come out and said, Barak, say something, please. What is going on? They're not pushing. They're not doing enough online. And there's an event happening. I'm like, there's an event? I don't even know about it. Tell us what's going on with the lack of social media pushing out there.
So I think that you're right to highlight that, really. This was an action day that's evolved organically, I would say, from the speakers for having the members there. We send out the emails to our members. Obviously, we want to support and have our members participating and coming and knowing about it. That's how we go about doing that with our emails that go out to supporters. But as any party, we exist as a party that is big on substance and details, and that will come out really when we announce more policies and things like that. But one thing that I think that we really need to start growing, as we've now grown, is our presence on social media and things like that. So expect big things to sort of develop, from that in the coming sort of weeks, where we'll start to sort of have a much louder voice.
Right. What do you think about that, Sarah? In terms of like the push online, do you think Advance UK is doing enough to help you as a candidate, also to help the people at home a chance to have Advance UK in government in terms of marketing?
Do you know what? It's a new. We've got to. Everyone should remember that this is a new party. We only actually become an actual official party on the 6th of December. And we're just in the middle of February. So
right, yeah.
I think we're doing quite a lot, to be honest. We're growing behind the scenes as well as in the public. And I mean, for me personally, I see Advance everywhere. However, obviously that's people who I follow, and so maybe my algorithms are just geared up for Advance UK. The more we get out there, the more we will be seen. There's not been many by-elections. So with by-elections, you also get that advertisement. So the more by-elections there are, the more elections, then we are going to get noticed. Obviously as well, with Restore coming up out of the ground, that then promotes Advance as well. So there's things that happen along the way to promote political parties. We just have to stay doing what we're doing, keep representing our own party, and keep pushing the word out there. And I can't see why we won't be a force to be reckoned with in the future, because we are so new. Who knew about reform really until like a couple of years ago, when they'd been going for such a long time? They'd changed names themselves. They'd gone from obviously being the Brexit Party to then becoming Reform. It took them such a long time to get 30,000 members, and it took us, like Richard said earlier, it took us 9 weeks. So I believe we are doing enough.
Yeah, which is really, really fast for a new political party. Now, I want to go to you, Richard. This is the policy draft. We've not heard much from it since the release, since the conference, when Ben was out there getting out there, telling us about it. And you guys kind of spoke on a lot of stuff. You spoke on maybe I'll say 5 pillars, and that was immigration, that was sovereignty, family, visas, and culture. Now, it looks like a lot of people cares way too much when it comes to sovereignty and immigration, and a little bit of culture, meaning the British culture, the way of life, and the way of govern. Now, I want to ask you because immigration has been a huge topic, and Restore Britain has become the I would say the Gestapo in a sense, where they're gonna go out there and round everybody. Some people who do not share their way of life, and they will make it so hard, so uncomfortable for them to stay here, even if they are legal immigrants, even if they are contributing. And this is obviously I'm quoting from the main mass deportation folder, which I stayed up all night to finish it off. So I'm well equipped to interview you guys. Now, immigration, you guys, it looks like your immigration is kind of the same with Restore Britain, but it just doesn't go that far. And why is that? Why is your immigration policy so reasonable that also why did you stay here in a sense? Why is it here? Why is it not this far? Or why is it not over here where you can maybe meet a little bit of Labour Party or maybe reform? But it's just in the center where it's more like, hey, we're gonna do this because we have this system that can already do it. We're not gonna introduce the Great Clarification Act.
I've never heard our immigration policy described that way. To be fair, it is extremely robust. I mean, anyone that's here illegally will essentially be detained and deported. We have going to remove anybody from any country that we have a green list of countries that we deem to be compatible culturally with us, right? And an example used here would be within, let's say, the NHS, where people say, oh, well, we're heavily dependent on people in the NHS. Well, subsequent policies as they come out will address that issue as well. But we've announced that we would accept, to a certain degree, whilst we're bringing our workforce up to speed and removing the caps in place to use our own people to train up to work in the NHS. We need to not just think about things like the proficiency of their work, but there's traditional things that are quintessentially British and UK values, like bedside manner, which have completely evaporated and disappeared from our hospitals and from our hospital staff. So I definitely don't think that there's anything. I mean, if anyone hasn't seen the policies, I invite you to go and have a look at them. We deal with legal migration, which is by far the biggest issue. So we're ensuring that actually we're going to put a complete stop on all migration whatsoever. There'll be an exceptional talent visa for people earning over 100,000.
Hello? I think we've lost Richard. Hello, Sarah. I think we've lost Richard. How you doing, Sarah? Can you come in? Well, he gets
I'm here.
reconnected. Now, the reason why I'm trying to get into policies here. Okay, I think we're losing Sarah as well. Can you hear me, Sarah?
Am I back, Barak?
Yeah, I can hear you now. Can you hear me?
Yeah,
I think
can
we've
hear
lost
you.
Richard. God.
Oh, was it Richard's one that was cracking? Because I weren't sure whether it was him or me. Yeah, the signal's not great.
No, I think he's gonna join. Could you?
Okay.
All right, he's here. Hey, Richard. You're back.
Hello.
Yeah,
I'm back.
hello.
Yeah.
How you doing?
I didn't know I'd done there. I was fully going off on one there. Forgive me. Let me know where I dropped out, and I'll pick it back up.
So we were talking about your policies and why why you think your policies work, the draft that you've released, why they work, and I think I was going to ask you about some of the policies that I've put on the screen here. I don't know if you can see, but there is a, when you look at the culture, there is no that it says all public servants to swear on the Bible, prohibit church conversion to to the use of other religion, only speak English in public sectors, honor and protect our military veterans, ban the burqa, and of course public calls to prayers. Now, we have a culture here where knife crime is becoming a normal thing. Now, when I was looking at your policies, when I was digging in to find what's going on, because of course I've looked deep into what's going on with Nick Botley in Manchester, and it looks like Nick Botley is very passionate when it comes to knife crime. It looks like Nick Botley is, he's worked to basically stop knife crime with the kids and stop them hurting each other. But then when I looked at advanced UK policies, it's not going to address those concerns about knife crime. Is anything that we do, is this just is this what we have? That's it?
I'm really sorry, Baraka. For some reason, I've lost a lot of signal there. I heard you talk about knife crime, the policies that we've got in place addressing culture and immigration, but you're asking specifically about knife crime. What would we do to tackle knife crime? Was that the
Yeah.
question?
Yeah, the reason why I've asked about knife crime is because when it comes to culture here, we've this culture of knife crime, the culture of 14-year-old carrying a knife has become a very normal thing now, where young kids are stabbing each other. I was speaking to a mother, I think 2 weeks ago. I was speaking to a mother who works in a primary school, and she works as she's a teacher in primary school, and she sees year 5 being stopped at the door with a knife, and that is really dangerous. And when I looked at your policies, there is not that much confrontation to this new culture that the country has emboldened.
Yeah. Well, I think wait for our policies on law and order and things like that for that. But yeah, absolutely. I mean, to me, this is, we didn't have such a big issue with knife crime. There's always violent crime. There's always, the crime trends and things like that. This particular policy is about who we are. We sort of, as we was doing the immigration policy, we kind of realized that we need to set out a key principle, which no other party has done, as to who we are, what we stand for, what we're about as a people, right? And then stem everything off of that. You go back to those fundamental principles, like, the basics done well, and you tackle a lot of issues downstream, right? In particular with knife crime, and looking at Sadiq Khan's London and how it's rife, it's absolutely horrible. It's horrible to see that that's where it's come. When we start to unveil policies around law and order, we'll be tackling that in a very strong way, because this isn't what it means to be British. This isn't how our capital city should be. We know that, and we've got people on the left that then come forward and say, when you start saying, well, so and so's been stabbed, or these knife crime, or the statistics, and they start quoting these statistics, and they say, well, that happens in any big city, and that's absolutely disgusting way of talking about it. It's unfortunate that you need to combat the virtual signaling people, to say that we need to bring back things like stop and search. There needs to be proper deterrence in place for people that are carrying weapons and using them. Right. It's horrible situation that's happening, and it will only get worse until it's actually dealt with.
Yeah, it looks like it will keep on getting worse, given that young kids are carrying knife. Now, I want to come to you, Sarah. If you are elected in the coming election, would Advance UK be backing, and of course, and you, Richard, would Advance UK be backing stop and search powers to be expanded?
Well, I can't actually answer that, but I can't see why we wouldn't. Because at the end of the day, like Richard said, there needs to be accountability. There needs to be deterrence. And if deterrents are not in place, then people are just going to think it's acceptable to carry a knife on them and nothing's going to happen. So to lower knife crime, if there is a deterrent and if people are held accountable for their actions, it's not about, oh, I've stabbed someone, now I can get in trouble. You get in trouble if you're carrying a knife, because at the end of the day, your intentions are that you're going to stab somebody if they say something that might upset you. Or, so if people are deterred from carrying knives, I cannot see why Advance UK wouldn't be backing that.
Yeah. Also, I'm assuming Advance UK will be backing that as well, right, Richard?
So I can tell you, we have a very important process, right, where we go to the college, and what we'll do when it comes to these things, because you're talking about expanding powers and things like that. So we draw on our subject matter experts that have had dealings with this, that will have dealings within law and order, that have had dealings from the other side of it. Like, for example, Nick Buckley, who's done loads of incredible work in Manchester, actually tackling the issue with knife crime. These people know it inside out. If we have people that are used to sitting there in relatively safe environments, trying to dictate what we would and wouldn't back and what we would do, then it's very difficult to have that related into real world experience. So we, as part of the college's role, is to draw on people that have tackled this knife crime, and also having such a diverse group of people, we'll be talking to people that used to be involved in that culture and now want to stop it, because there's a lot of good people out there doing that kind of work. And that's how we form our policies, and that's how we'll so I don't want to blanket say we'll be extending powers, because the more you extend state powers, the more of a slippery slope you go into. What we need to do, and what isn't happening, is we've got powers already in place that the police could be using that they're not using effectively. And that doesn't come down to the individual police officers. That comes down to the way in which their hierarchy isn't backing them to do the right things. So we'll have to be very careful with expanding any powers, but stop and search, absolutely. Yeah, completely. Right. It should happen, yeah.
Right. Now, the next debate that Britain is literally having right now is which religion they should help, which religion they should let flourish, which religion should be, constrained, like, should be, like cap, like, hey, you can't grow this fast, okay? Now the figures came out about the funding that has been going on to a lot of religious, groups, and it looks like the Muslims are getting £40 million, Jews are getting £28 million, and Christians have received £5 million in funding. Now, you mentioned here at the draft, when it says about culture, that you will, of course, you will stop, or you will make sure that all public servants swear on the Bible, and you will prohibit church from converting into other religious, mosque into, it's basically mosque, but more into other religious building, and you will only speak English in public sectors. But you didn't mention about helping Christianity grow, in a sense where you said that, hey, this is a Christian country, but how would you help the Christian faith to grow if there's no funding for it?
To be honest, when we're laying out policies and what we're going to do, there's only so much that you can talk about. When we was in the other weekend, when Ben was talking about what we was going to do with immigration and culture, everything, I would believe that, when you talk about culture, it's about going back to the core values and starting at schools. So we always done the Harvest Festival, we always celebrated Easter, we always celebrated Christmas, and that's about reinstating the Christian faith at school level, when children's minds are like sponges and they take it in. And at the end of the day, the education system in our country doesn't support Christianity. When the Christmas nativity is now not allowed to be celebrated in most schools, if you're bringing them things back, then you're bringing back Christianity. So there's a lot that can be done to encourage people to turn back to Christianity, and I think you'll find over the last 2 years, more and more people are turning back to Christianity on their own account, on their own accord.
But you mentioned here, this is not new. It's obviously Richard, I'm assuming. he played a big part in drafting this as well. You will stop churches from converting into mosque. You will make shows, public service as swearing on the Bible. And you will ban the burqa and, of course, the call of prayer. But I just want to make sure you know that for Christianity to grow, they're going to need funding. They're going to need new buildings. They're going to need new infrastructure. Because the church that I go, the church near me, it's a church mixed with 5 churches, because all the other churches closed near here because not many people were turning up, and of course it's a building, it's business, it's going to be taken away if not many people are coming, not many people are contributing. So there's one church and 5 different churches come in and we have one service altogether. And that's because they can't have their own separate churches near their place, so they have to travel close to here. And of course, I'm not near town. I'm not close to town. I'm like far away from the town. Maybe that could be a reason, but still, those churches have closed down. So they existed, but now they've closed down because there's no funding. And now, when you look at the funded, when you look at the religious group that's getting the funding, Christianity is not at the top. It's not second. It's receiving, I think, 3 times lower than the second person, the second religion. Is there any sort of package that you will introduce for Christianity? The reason why I'm asking you this is because, given the new Labour policy when it comes to religious stuff, a lot of Christian missionary school will be closed down because of Labour's tax rate on them. Will you be reversing that, or will you be introducing a new package which will make sure that Christianity, gets defended in a sense and also gets accelerated in so you can dominate?
Essentially, we need to be a lot more robust in our sort of support for Christianity. That is fundamentally, constitutionally who we are, right? So ultimately, the answer is yes. How that looks like, it will probably be along the lines of how funding is going to be diverted from other religions and supporting the Christians. If we're telling churches they're not able to convert, then we need to support that they need to be supported as opposed to be going derelict. I mean, we need these are part of our heritage, and it seems to be that if these buildings and as such are used in other ways, then it's a regression from our heritage of who we are as a people. We can't lose sight of that. We need to hold on to that with both hands and grasp it firmly. So no, absolutely, that we will be supporting Christian faith. It's entwined into who we are. I mean, you can argue whether you're a religious person or not. Personally, I'm not a churchgoer. I would say that I'm culturally Christian. Fundamental to who we are, and we all agree that it's genuinely fundamental in that respect. So yes, is the answer. We would be faith, and as in ways like Sarah has said, right? It's and when our policies come out on education and further education and so forth, it's about breeding that sort of knowledge of who we are into our sort of schooling system, so that we're proud of who we are, as opposed to what's happening now, where we're ashamed of who we are and we feel that we should be promoting everyone else and every other faith around us, as opposed to Christianity and to ourselves as a people, right? We need to put us first in that education system. We need to put us first in all the other different systems that we've got, our other institutions that we've got, in order to help promote that. Hopefully, a lot of that just happens organically, but if there needs to be support, then yes, ultimately we should be removing support from other groups that don't actually have our best interests at heart and are very muscular in the way that they conduct themselves and try to, as a cuckoo would push the egg out the nest, right? We need to firmly look after that Christianity and put our arm around it and make sure that stays a permanent feature. It's a big part of who we are.
Yeah, makes sense.
Yeah,
I
and we
agree with
need
that.
to remember.
Now, Sarah, I want to come to you, Sarah.
We need to remember why that the Muslim people from a Muslim background are being handed out such a large amount of money, and it's because it is Labour that is giving that money away. If Advance come into power, they're not going to be giving more to the Muslim faith than they are to Christianity. So, you know, you need to remember why they are getting so much, and it's because it is a Labour government.
Right. Yeah. It looks like that's the way, Sarah. Now there is a tax on private schools in terms of the religious private schools. Do you think that is a way where Labour used to silence the Christianity, the teaching of Jesus Christ in these private religious schools?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, but let's face it, Labour doesn't work for the nation. It doesn't want to protect its culture, doesn't work for the people who deserve to be here, and they will do anything to embrace Islam. So when you're not allowed to call a Christmas tree anymore, and you're not allowed to call Christmas Christmas, and it has to be a festive celebration, and we're not doing Harvest Festival in our schools, but they're teaching children about the calling to prayer, I don't find that acceptable.
Yeah.
I'm happy for my children, or when my children went to school, I was happy for them to learn about all cultures and all religions. However, you have to respect your own religion and your own culture as a priority. And we are a Christian country, and if people come here and they don't respect our culture and our history, then why would you come here in the first place?
Oh,
Why
yeah.
would you want to come somewhere that you don't want to integrate or embrace their way of life?
Oh yeah, yeah, totally agree, totally agree. Now, I want to bring both of you guys in on this. I think this has been a conversation that a lot of politicians do not want to touch. A lot of people look at it and they're like, no, I don't want to say anything because, of course, my career, blah, 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 you know. And that happens to be the grooming gang. The grooming gang, as we see it, a lot of victims say the police ignore the grooming gang victims for fear of racial sensitivities. So how would Advance UK ensure that does not happen again?
Through accountability. Every single person that was complicit in allowing that to go on, whether they was a police officer, a council worker, a social worker, a local MP, whoever it may have been, everybody needs to know that there will be accountability.
Right.
So once people know that they are going to be held accountable for their actions, if they turned a blind eye, they need to be held accountable.
Yeah. Yeah. How about you?
Swift and robust, dramatic deterrent action. I think this is probably the worst stain on our country. This is systemic. It has been happening for decades. It's been swept under the carpet. And as you've said, people haven't wanted to touch it, because of fear of their careers, or to hell with their careers, to hell with anybody. This is the lives of, women and girls, and anyone complicit in that, as we've seen with what's been happening with, and I won't comment too much on it, but Andrew Batten Windsor, nobody is above the law, right? Lady Justice is blind, as she should be. If you're found to be complicit, if you've been found to be perverting the course of justice, then you should face full justice, and it should be very swift. This should be something that gets dragged out. It should be that there is an active, police force that is targeting this specific issue, so that anyone culpable. Because what terrifies me is that this is so widespread for so long. I'm almost sure that it's happening still.
Right,
And
yeah.
if we can't protect the most vulnerable in our society, then we are not worth it. So we need to come after everyone that knew anything, and ensure that they are facing proper justice. I want deterrent justice in place for this.
Yeah, it makes sense. Now, since you brought it up, it looks like it was obviously arrested, let go. Sarah, I want to come to you. I think we've just in time lost her. But do you think there'll be any justice? Sarah is back. Do you think there'll be any justice? And I'm asking you as a mother yourself, looking at those pictures, those Epstein files, looking how the conversation. I want to also introduce the, Sarah Ferguson in it because, of course, she, her comments with Jeffrey Epstein is just like, how can a mother want to do that? But do you think there'll be any justice to the royal family, Sarah? Hello, Sarah, can you hear me? Hello? I think everybody's frozen. Is it just me? I feel like everybody's frozen. I think everybody's frozen, innit? Rob. All right, folks. I think everybody's frozen. Sarah is frozen. Uh, Richard is frozen. I'm not sure what's going on, folks. Can you guys hear me? Can you guys see me? Comment down below. Can you guys hear us? Can you see me when I move? Can you see me moving? I can move. Can you see that? But I can't see Sarah moving. I can't see Richard moving. So let me try to reach out to them. Oh, God. All right, folks, hold on. Can you guys see me? Yes, you can. But you're messing around too much. So we can see you and see you. Overs are frozen. Yeah, that's correct. Overs are frozen. So let me try. See what's going on. Because everybody else is frozen apart from myself. That's a problem. That's a problem. Hello, hello, hello. Can you hear me?
I can.
Oh, I don't know what's going on. I think it's me. I think it's me. All right. I think it's my fault. Sarah, can you hear me? I don't know if it's just me or is your Wi-Fi. But the question I was asking was, oh, we've lost Sarah entirely. But the question I was gonna ask you, Richard, was, do you think there'll be any justice, first of all, to the grooming gang? Attackers, assailants who have obviously been covered up. Now, this is for both of you guys, Sarah and obviously Richard. Do you think there'll be any justice for obviously the royal family, meaning Sarah Ferguson and Prince Andrew? And also, do you think there will be any justice with, because it looks like there's hundreds of people, thousands of people who are in the grooming gang, thousands of people who are still roaming the street that participated in this. And that could be the monsters themselves who actually got this done. And they could be that the councillors, the home, the care home workers, the staff, the police, and it could be the politicians as well who knew and they're still at work right now. Do you think there'll be any sort of justice? And if there isn't, will Advance UK work hard to actually get that done?
100%. Yeah. I would say that we should be very skeptical. Labour didn't want this to happen. They didn't want an inquiry. They made that very clear. They even cancelled the local ones in Oldham. Jess Phillips didn't want that, and she'll try to spin it any way she wants, but they didn't want that. You can speculate all you want as to why that is. I think we all know why that most probably is. But then you have to ask yourself, what are they doing with the national inquiry? because it's taken them so long to find someone to chair it, to do it properly, and they've just delayed it and delayed it and delayed it. And what they'll do is they'll kick it down the road. They'll spend, an obscene amount of money on it, and will it uncover, and what will it uncover? I don't know. Do you have confidence in somebody that desperately did not want to do this? And if they didn't want to do it so desperately, do you have confidence that they're going to prosecute people? They're going to be thorough enough? They're going to uncover every single stone? So the answer is that will there be justice? I really desperately hope so. What that justice will look like, we'll have to wait and see. But under an advanced UK government, there will be justice. There will be if we need to have another inquiry, if we need to look into things further, then we will do. We'll make sure that people are prosecuted for this. Like I said, this is the deepest stain in our country, right? So absolutely, there'll be justice. If there can be justice had, there'll be justice. Absolutely.
What about yourself, Sarah? Before we start receiving the calls from the viewers.
Yeah, there needs to be 100% accountability. Those that were complicit in this, when you had police officers purposely destroying and getting rid of evidence that could have prosecuted somebody for their actions, they need to be held accountable. There has been, and the problem is it was young girls that was already vulnerable that was targeted. People need to remember that. This isn't the elite. It wasn't their children that was targeted. These are already young women and children that are very, very vulnerable in the first place. They already was either in care or about to be taken into care or from broken families. And they've been let down at every single turn, and they're still being let down. So I know that with an advanced government, we will make it a priority to make sure that people are held accountable and that the failings are exposed. Because let's face it, there is a lot of people within the Labour government that were involved or knew what was going on.
Yeah, makes sense. Makes sense. It looks like it's not just random couple Asian guys or black guys or couple white guys doing the thing. It looks like it was a big um, operation where they had people at the top who enable it for it to go on that long, to the point where nobody was able to challenge it. Even till today, nobody's able to sit there in Parliament and actually ask the tough questions that need to be asked and need to be answered. No.
It's because people are too bothered about being called a racist. At the end of the day, it is Pakistani grooming gangs that are grooming young white girls. That is it. They groom, and they're not grooming, they're raping. But they do it to girls and women in their own communities. However, because people are not allowed to speak out in their communities because of that, they will be looked at and it's in a shameful way. It needs to be stopped. It does need to be stopped, and people need to back off and think, I don't care whether I'm called a racist, I'm doing what's right and I'm protecting women and children.
Yeah. That needs to get back up there. That focus needs to be back up there. It's about the victim, the survivors, not who did it, what color it is, and who does he know. Yeah. I think that needs to be at the very top. But we received a question here from the viewers before they start calling in. Let's open up the phone line so they can actually start calling in now, and we'll see what they have to say. But we've received some. So a viewer asked, "What is your views and policies on legalizing cannabis?"
What for?
Well,
Obviously, recreational.
Yeah. I think your personal view, and of course, what you think you would do in terms of the party doing something about it.
Well, I think I'll I can give my personal view. I'm not part of the college now, obviously being the director, so I can't say in what the party's line would be when they formulate the policy. Personally, I don't think that it's something that will be looking to legalize cannabis. I mean, I've been to New York recently, and you walk around and people that are smoking it there because it's legalized there, and I would say that that's become a bit of a problem. I guess the arguments could be that it's a gateway drug. I don't know really. I've never been a cannabis smoker, so I can't comment on the need for it. Medicinally, I don't know with the medical properties of having some sort of benefit at all. I'll leave that to the experts within the college that will be able to tell me, and our head of policy as they draft policies, whether there's some exceptions for people that if there's any medicinal properties that would be beneficial. But otherwise, I don't really see it as something that's top on our agenda. My own personal opinion is no, essentially.
Right. What about yourself, Sarah? Yeah, linking it to the Green Party wanting to legalize it. What do you think, Sarah? I think we've lost Sarah again. But linking it to the Green Party, because they want to make this illegal thing. They want to make sure you can walk into Asda and get this drug. Do you think that's a good idea, given that what we've seen in places in United States, in places in Canada? It's gonna be
No,
insane,
it's not.
right?
Yeah, it's not. But I think that they go a step further and would legalize other things as well, right? So, I mean, the Greens are a repository for a lot of wacky, crazy ideas, to be honest with you.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I think that they do it as a sensationalist sort of thing to try to grab headlines, and they're not. It's not serious. They're not a serious party, really. So they do it because we're now talking about the Greens and their sort of crazy, wacky policies, right? Um, to the idea of walking into Asda and picking up drugs, to me is completely wrong. And I know that there'll be people out there say, well, this isn't the harmful drug or whatever else. Well, I mean, I think it is, to be fair. So no, I can only speak on behalf of myself, obviously to your listeners that are saying it. It's not something I would advocate for, and I don't think it's worked well in the cities and places that they have legalized it.
Yeah. No, let me try get this phone line in. I'm trying. It's getting really hard to connect this to the viewers so they can call in. But but yeah, I think Sarah White is having huge trouble coming in. But oh god, ouch. This Wi-Fi is just messing up for everybody, right? It's messing up for everybody. All right, Sarah White is in. All right, cool. The phone line is open, folks. The phone line is open, so you can make the call, and of course, you can talk to the great Sarah White and Richard Thompson right here at the Baraka Show Live. So make sure you, of course, you are sensible with your questions. Don't make sure it's not too far from what we've been talking about. So make sure it's relevant. All right. Okay, cool. We got a caller calling in. 2 seconds. Hello. Hello. Hello.
Their reception's as bad as mine.
Hello. You made it through to the Baraka Show. How you doing?
Good.
Do you have any questions? Or what's on your mind? Okay, I can't hear you properly. All right, just call again when you can, but we can't hear you right now, wherever you are. Okay, well, this is what you get from open up the line and anyone can call in. All right, folks, if you're going to make a call, make sure you know what you're going to say, you know what you're going to do. Okay, we've got a couple missed calls, but I'm going to let you guys call back. But while we're here, we're taking questions from the viewers who are writing in. There is a lot of questions that's been written in. Okay. Somebody else is calling. I think this is the same person. I don't know if he's going to be serious this time. Hello? What'd you say? right, this guy's messing around. Oh, that was a different caller as well. Hey, if you're gonna call, make sure you're serious, all right? If that was you, just call back again. We're gonna get a serious caller here. But anyways, here's another question from the viewers. Okay, there's another caller in. Hello, you've made it through to the Baraka Show. How you doing?
Yeah, good. I'm good. I have a few points to raise with your current YouTube live performance with Baraka.
Hi.
So if you want to listen to my arguments or points, then fine, I'm ready to go.
All right, I'm ready to go.
So first off, Baraka made a point about the right fighting the right. And I say this, that it isn't the right fighting the right. It is the establishment fighting the right, because there is only two rights, and that is the Restore Party under Rupert Lowe and the Advance Party under Ben Habib. Yes, those are the two rights. But as for reform, they are clearly a establishment party, a uni party. So we can disregard all establishment uniform nonsense. Second, and I have to say this, like all institutions, the church has become, over time, corrupted. So let's drop the church and instead focus on, if you like, Christian values. That's a very important thing. Christian values are crucial. There's no need to go to church. You don't have to attend church to practice Christian values. So let's abandon that. Third on my agenda is that Farage has said that we cannot get rid of Muslims or the Muslim threat. In that case, what does he propose? How does he propose to contain the Muslim threat, the Islamic threat? How does Farage intend to contain the threat? All very well saying that, there's too many of them here and we can't get rid of them because of blah, blah, blah. But okay, they're here. How do we contain their dominance, their takeover bid? That's what the question is.
Right, those are valid concerns and valid questions for sure. I'm assuming Sarah White has something to say about that. Sarah, hi.
Well, that would be under a reform government, wouldn't it? That he's not wanting to do mass deportations. Under an advanced government, we would be wanting to do mass deportation. And it's not about getting rid of every single person that is a Muslim, because we know that not every single person that is a Muslim is a threat.
Right. Caller, there's a voice coming from your call. Could you turn it down? I think there's a TV playing at the back.
I'm sorry. Okay. Shall I hang up?
No, I mean, if you could turn it down so then we're able to hear you apart from, you know.
Oh, right. Okay.
Yeah, it wouldn't be about deporting every single Muslim, like we wouldn't want to deport every single person from any other religion, but what we do is deport people that shouldn't be here, that have either overstayed their welcome or who have broken into our country and come here illegally. They have no place in our society.
Right. Richard, do you have anything to say on these points that you raised?
Yeah, I think that Farage had made the comment, didn't he? It was on Winston Marshall's show where he'd said that we can't go up against Islam. If we do, we lose. And that sort of defeatist attitude means there's no point to reform. You've already lost. He also mentioned something about how the Muslim
I don't know if we're
population,
having breakup. Are we having breakup?
No, we can
the
hear
Muslim
you.
Oh,
you know,
good.
Can you hear
it
us?
grows 75%
Yeah,
every
but
5
we're
years.
kind of
That's
like,
how
I
it is,
can't
and that's
focus
the
on
way it
like
is, and we need to
your
accept
live
that. Well, we don't
stream
need to accept
and
that. We can.
talking with
The
you
only
at the
reason
same
that's
time.
been
There seems
happening,
to
and
be
it's
like
because it's been
a kind of
perpetuated
time
by
lapse.
complete ignorance,
So, I'm not
that
getting what you are
have
saying.
allowed protective blanket over these minorities. The Muslim and Islam is obviously the most,
All
I
right,
suppose,
Richard. Sorry,
assertive
sorry,
within those
Richard.
groups.
Richard,
So,
can you hear me?
no, I think that we need to re-establish who we are, what
Richard.
we believe in, and you do that by things such as removing, as Baraka, as you had mentioned, about funding for different religions, and Christianity is very low on the list. Well, you remove things like the madrasas that receive funding, which are a hotbed for indoctrination. So you remove those sorts of things; they're not compatible. You remove things like the burqa, the
Oh no, are we getting the freeze again? I think Richard has frozen.
I think so too.
Yeah.
Yeah. We got to the stage where you are discussing the cannabis issue. Well, to be perfectly frank, I don't think that's worth a conversation. I really don't see that in the current climate. That's way, way, way down the agenda. The agenda right this moment is the Islamic threat, the scourge of Europe. That's what we need to be focused on. That's where we need to be. That's what the issue we need to be dealing with. And truth be told, that the average person, the average Brit, is under threat, and we feel threatened. I feel threatened. The average person feels threatened. And these are the issues that are high, high up on the agenda: crime, and the Islamic threat. Those are the issues. And the crime wave is, in all reality and in all honesty, is coming from the Islamic community. Okay, there are these gangster people from the Eastern Europe regions. Yes, we know that. But before we had the bombardment of Islam, we were able to contain that. Okay, we dealt with the issue, we deal with the issue. But today, right this moment, as I'm talking with you, we are in a state of nervousness. The average person is in a state of nervousness. When people can't go out in the night time, during the night evenings, because of a threat of losing your watch, your purse, your handbag, your all risk. And those are the deals that's where we need to be focused, not cannabis. Forget cannabis. We're not interested in cannabis. We're not interested in soft business. We're interested in serious issues. Let's get down to serious issues.
Right. Right. Makes sense. Makes sense. How would you propose we deal with Islam?
Well, first off, I would say that immediately close all borders. One is to close all borders. Second is to curtail to curtail their development. We must stifle their development, because day by day, inch by inch, or in modern terms, metric terms, uh, 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 um, millimeter by millimeter. I'm old fashioned, so you have to forgive me for that. But we have to stem the flow, and we have to curtail, we have to put a stop to their development and say, okay, look here, stop. Now let's sit down, draft out a policy that will not allow them to flourish. We accept multiculturalism to a degree, but what we will not accept is being taken over. This is a Christian-based country. We value Christianity. And as I said to you, we don't have to go to church to practice those values. The important thing is to remain and retain our culture. We have to retain our culture. Right. If we wish to remain a nation of Christianity and Christian values, we have to retain our culture.
Sarah, what's your thoughts on that, Sarah?
100%. We need to preserve our culture. It is our culture, and we have fought for it for centuries, and we have evolved and developed as people, and we are good Christian people. That derives from our Christian faith. So you don't have to be a Christian, you don't have to go to church, but yes, I do agree, we want to instill good Christian morals. There's nothing wrong with that. These people that are coming here illegally, undocumented, or even when they come here legally on a work permit but then decide not to work, or they come here on a student visa and then overstay their welcome. All of these people need to be, detained, processed and sent back home. A lot of them haven't fled war-torn countries. Let's remember, anyone who's come here illegally has come over from France. France isn't at war. We need to protect our borders, our state, and the people that deserve to be here. And we are good, upstanding Christian people. I'm not a practicing Christian. I am a Christian, and I do believe in God. However, my morals is that I am a good, upstanding Christian person. So the way to protect ourselves against the threat of Islam is by putting us first and making sure that anybody that doesn't integrate is quickly shown the door.
Perfect. Richard, just last word before we move on to the next call.
My name is Rob.
Yeah.
Sorry, thanks. Richard is going to respond to you right now.
Right. Thanks,
Thank you, Richard.
I was just about to say, I didn't know that gentleman's name.
So we have complete breakup on the telephone line. So, Richard, I apologize. I'm not hearing you too well.
Okay, well, I'm sure that if I'm not clear now, then you can tune into the Baraka show. I'm sure he'll put this out to rewatch it. But just to say, Rob, that I think that the way that you articulate this point is one that's reflected across the whole entire nation. I was going off on a rant before I was stopped with the service. I was saying that you brought up the issue with Farage and reform and how they're handling it, and the way that they had said that what they were doing is that if they went up against Islam, then they would lose. If that's the case, then reform has already lost before they've even begun. He said that every 5 years, the Muslim population increases every 75%. That's just where we are. That's just what it is. Well, that will always be the way it is if you give them an environment that they will flourish and they will continue growing at a rapid rate. Whilst the birth rate for natives is about 1.4, we're being demographically replaced. That's what's happening. So the couple of things that advanced UK would do. Essentially, we mentioned before about funding for religious things. We would scrap madrasas, which are hotbeds for indoctrination, of Islamism.
So we're suffering serious breakdown. But anyway, I think I get the gist of what you're saying. And I will say this to you guys. Your input is much respected. I admire you guys, especially Rachel, coming from what she calls working class. I don't class. I'm not that way inclined, but I understand her. She's a very valuable person to Britain, a great woman, and good luck to you guys, and very good luck to Ben. And I hope as a British citizen or a Joe Bloggs, I hope that you guys are able to get together with Rupert and overcome this Farage establishment thing. We have to overcome that. And if you guys can achieve that, then that's great success, and we're on the road to recovery for the United Kingdom, for Britain. let's aim for that. And thank you once again, all. I'm very grateful for everything. All of your input is fantastic and great stuff. Brilliant, brilliant, brilliant.
Thank
Cheers
you so
now,
much,
and
Rob.
I'm gonna hang up. Goodbye.
Thank you so much, Rob.
Thanks a lot, Rob.
Okay.
I think we had an issue of him hearing you guys. So we were able to hear him, but he couldn't hear us. But that was a good call. It looks like Richard. Rich, it looks like a lot of people resonate with a lot of your policies on when it comes to addressing the issue of Islam. Why do you think that is? There's another call. Hello, how you doing? You've made it to the Baraka Show. You're live.
Hello, hi Baraka, hi Sarah, hi Richard. I just want to say thank you very much for doing what you guys are doing. It's a great show.
Do you have anything on your mind, sir?
Well, the only thing I think I've got, the only question that I've got, well, it's not a question really, it's just a follow-up from what the last gentleman said, Rob said. It's to do with, I just want to clarify that what Richard is saying is absolutely spot on when he talks about the Islamic madrasas. They need to be closed down. There should not be any madrasas in the UK. You know, this is not a Muslim country. It's a Christian country. I'm a Muslim myself. So I would say, yes, Richard, you're absolutely spot on when he said that. So, yeah, thank you.
Richard, you got anything to say on that?
Yeah, no, thank you. Thank you for your support. I mean, as I was saying to Rob, and I'll finish now, is that we need to make, I don't think that this is a multiculturalism country. We can be tolerant, but we have a culture that we need to defend. So the madrasas is one thing that is, as I said, a hotbed. The halal and other non-stun slaughter practices that happen need to also be removed. We also need to remove the ability to import halal as well, because otherwise you're just offshoring that problem. There's a combination of things that we've got within our policies to address this issue. And I would say that there's nothing intolerant with how we're doing that. We're just not importing practices that are foreign to our culture, because we are in a state of crisis where we need to robustly defend who we are, because otherwise over time we will lose that and we will not be able to get that back again.
Sarah.
Yeah, I think you're absolutely right, Richard. Yeah, I think with that, the last thing I would say, Sarah, you're doing an amazing work as well. You're really good at what you do. So thank you very much. And Baraka, keep up the show, man. Keep up the show. This is amazing. This is what you guys are doing. Absolutely incredible. And as a brown Pakistani immigrant, a Muslim, I will say that you guys are not racist, because I can see some comments people were saying, "Oh, this is a racist show, this and that." It's absolutely not. Thank you.
It can't be a racist show. Just look at the name and the profile.
Yeah, I know, you're absolutely right. Yeah, it can be, but that's what I'm saying. People are just crazy. They just don't understand what's going on. So, as I said, keep up the good work, Baraka. Keep up, Richard and Sarah, and I hope we will see more of this from Advanced UK in the future. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much for calling in. Appreciate you show up. Thank you.
Oh, take care, man. Take care. Bye-bye.
Yeah, that is a good guest. We've had him on, a good friend of the show. I think you guys, Sarah, I think you recognized him from his voice.
Of course I recognized him.
Yeah, right. It's kind of crazy that everything now is being labeled as racist. Now I see comments saying here, even comments on this show saying this is a racist show.
Yeah, but it's the easiest slander, isn't it, from anybody that wants to disagree with anything that we're standing up for, to preserve our culture, to preserve our history, to preserve our nation. Straight away, you're a racist. That's Nazi.
Yeah, we're receiving another caller. Let's just pick this up and we'll see what's going on. Hello, hi. You've made it through to the Baraka Show. How you doing?
Okay. Are you?
Hi, you all right? I'm doing good.
Yes, thank you. You're still the best dressed man on telly.
Oh, thank you so much. I'm on YouTube. I'm glad that you're putting it on the TV. Yes.
Yeah, I'll just put this down. Yeah. Are you still listening? Are we still listening to Sarah?
Yes, Sarah is still here.
Yeah.
She can hear you right now.
Okay. Right. Well, I do believe that we should actually bring back all the the Sunday schools so that we can bring back the religion into our children. You know, because I just think it's all, but they're not being taught. They're not being taught our history, and they're not being taught our religion. Nobody knows anything about past history. It just seems to me that I don't know what they're being taught in schools.
Sarah.
Well, I would agree that there's a lot of things that need to come back into teachings within our country.
Okay.
My own children, my youngest is nearly 16, so they've all left school. However, when they was at school, I was quite alarmed to hear in history, rather than learning about, you know, Henry VIII, they was learning about medieval Baghdad. Everything in our education system needs to go back to teaching about our own cultures, our own history. We can learn about other people's cultures and history and religions. However, everything needs to be taught about our own country and what we have achieved as a nation, and to teach children to be proud of what we've achieved as well over the centuries. And like you say, Sunday schools, where has youth clubs gone as well? Youth clubs, when I was growing up, there was a youth club in every town. Now you're lucky to find somewhere that teenagers can go to. And Sunday schools, I always went to Sunday school. So then you learn about your religion, you learn about the religion of the nation. And that's right, these things need to be looked at and they need to be addressed.
Richard, what do you think?
So, I mean, we're going to have our policies soon on education and higher education. We've got some formidable people within the college that will do that, and you're going to be very pleasantly surprised. Let me say that to our caller with what we're going to put in there, because this is what happens. You indoctrinate the young to fundamentally be apologists for being, you know, UK citizens. And then you grow up with this sense of guilt where we must be wrong. We must have done something bad. Our past is our past, and we did more overwhelmingly good than anything that is remarkably, substantially bad. One thing that is often thrown around is the our part in the slave trade. They tear down the statues of our former heroes and people that were embroidered in that. But to be honest with you, I think our record is pretty clear and pretty good on this. We enforced the abolition of the slave trade, and we went about that globally, enforcing it at great expense, not just financially to the economy of the time, but to the lives of the men and women and the sailors that were on board those vessels enforcing it. So we've done some amazing things, truly, truly amazing things, and we should be celebrating those things. We should be learning about them, objectively, and crystal clear as to how things went. But we shouldn't be, plastering our past as something to be bad for, and that's what I think is really missing. My kids go to school now, and they're quite young, and they do things. They don't sing the same hymns that I used to sing. They don't form the same the same education as I had, right? So we need to bring that back. It needs to be deeply rooted from a young age as to who we are. And it isn't necessarily about, like I said, singing hymns and being Christian. That is very much part of our culture that we should very robustly defend. But it's about teaching us who we are as a people, what our history was, what our heritage is, holding on to that. And rather than teaching that, we should be feeling sorry and feeling bad for who we are and our history, we should be celebrating how incredible it was. We've got probably the richest, deepest history of any country ever. And I think that is how it should be taught.
I couldn't agree more, Richard.
Yeah. Can you hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you.
Yes,
yeah. Also, I do have an idea about bringing the people back into culture. Just if we can set up a organisation like all the other religions do. We can have an organisation that we could probably pay, say, 50 pence or £1 into, and that could help with all our youngsters giving them things to do and bringing them off the streets and stuff like that.
The youth centres, you mean things like that? There should be, a community effort to ensure that these, are open and places for people to go. Is that what you mean?
Yeah.
I think that's a great idea.
Anyway,
to be honest with you.
Yeah, I think you lot are advanced. Honestly, you are the closest to us that will ever be.
Well, we'll do our best, and we'll keep.
You're brilliant. I just think everybody should be voting for you lot because you're just absolutely like us.
Great stuff.
That's because we are the party that represents people.
And thank you, Baraka. You're brilliant. Okay.
All right. Appreciate you. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Bye-bye. Bye.
Bye-bye.
What a lovely caller.
Yeah, lovely caller, right? We're going to take one more call before we wrap up, folks. So if you are in to call in, if you're waiting on the line, make sure you put your call in right now. Or we're going to just do one last caller before we let Sarah and Richard go. All right, somebody's calling, no call ID. Hello, hi, you've made it through to the Baraka Show. What's your name and where you calling from? Hello? Hello? Hello, hi. You've made it through to the Baraka Show. What's your name and where you calling from?
Hi, hello. My name is Nisha.
How you doing?
I'm good, thank you. How are you?
I'm good, thank you.
Hello.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you. Could you turn down the thing at the back? We can hear that something that's playing on the back.
Yeah, that's you guys.
Oh, great, great stuff.
So my question is, I've never done this before, so I'm kind of like new to all of calling in and everything.
Right.
But my question is around mental health and NHS waiting times. How can what is the political party's response to helping those people with alleviating mental health and getting them back into independent sort of living and working in society, and how can we bring down the waiting times of the NHS?
I think Sarah, you should take that first.
Okay. You know what? There's a real lack of funding to our NHS, to be honest, and I think that really needs to be looked at. Again, our policies are still being written and still under scrutiny, or being put together by the college. So for me as a candidate, it's nothing for me to really to comment on. However, what I would say is I know as a working class person, I know that there is massive problems with our NHS, and I know that people are just forgotten about in a system that is completely overlooked. So I would like it that Advanced acknowledges the problems in the NHS, and I believe that because they are a party for the people who care about the people who actually have to use the NHS, rather than people who are sitting in their ivory towers using private healthcare, I believe that Advance UK will take on board the failings of the NHS and make it a system that can be once again looked at as something better than the rest of the world has got with their medical systems.
Richard.
Yeah, it's a great question because it's such an important one, like with the NHS. And when I did some campaigning before for the 2024 general election, I was speaking to people, and one of them was a doctor that was working in one of the hospitals local to me. And he said one of the key issues he's got is the infrastructure within the NHS. He was dealing with patients that he was transferring to different wards, and he was using a system, and he told me the system was Windows 95. Right? So it's pretty old. So he's then inputting everything into the system, Then he couldn't send that across to where he was sending the patient because it wasn't compatible. So then he had to write all of the notes out freehand, take it to the place that he was transferring the patient to then rewrite it back into the system again. So he's done 3 big write-ups rather than one, which is obviously going to contribute to the time to resolve that patient's issue, which then is going to push back other people within the queue. So there's fundamental issues like that within the NHS. It's not set up for success structurally. And there's layers upon layers of managerial classes that really what we need are the actual workers. I touched on previously, and I don't know if it was when I was cut off and going off on a rant or anything, but I was saying that we've lost a lot of the sort of bedside manner that we should have within our within the UK. We traditionally we've had excellent bedside manner from doctors, from nurses, and things like that. We need to be training up our people because we've capped those people. You import the right sort of mindset into the NHS from doctors, from nurses. You're able to treat people humanely and much more efficiently, and it's a much better, happier feel and environment for people to recover in whatever ailments they've got. It does need to have a look at funding, because we need to be using the money efficiently. It's currently not. We've got DEI officers, we've got art curators that go there and things like that. We don't need this sort of stuff. It's ridiculous. We need to streamline it to make sure that actually the money is going to where it's definitely needed to ensure the success and efficiencies of the NHS. In regards to mental health, that's a very difficult one because there's so many different mental health issues that people face and would be treated very differently, right? What we do know is there's been a massive spike in terms of people claiming unemployment benefits through mental health, which then means a lot of the people that genuinely need the help, they need support, and they need certain funding and things like that, are getting sort of caught in the weeds with the rest of the people that are explicitly abusing that system. So I can only talk from personal experiences, and I can only talk from what I think. Obviously, the college will formulate that policy with all those things, with all those experts that have handled these things with consideration. But the people that have those genuine need for mental health services, I believe, are being catastrophically let down because of the amount of increase that we've had in people claiming that they have mental health issues has increased so much that it can't be a genuine figure. But I would like to think, and I would really hope, that in the future, under any government, right, whatever's happening, as soon as possible, that is really handled, because it's not a pleasant place to it's not, depending on your condition anyone has with a mental health issue, it's something that you do need to have support with. You do need to have a clear plan in place to sort of make you feeling valued, to getting back on your feet and to be supported in the correct ways.
Right. I don't know about you, but that was a long response. How was that for you?
Sorry.
Hello?
Hello?
How was the response for you?
I'm just listening to what Richard's saying right now, but yeah, it's been, it is something it's an important area, something that
Right. Okay, obviously I'm not sure if you know, but the show, when you guys watch the show, it's always like 10-20 seconds behind. So did you...
And thank you so much, Sarah and Richard, for sharing that. And I do stress that it's an area that definitely needs to be looked into, and I appreciate all that you continue to do for this country. Thank you.
Right, thank you so much for calling in. Appreciate you. I'm glad it was a great experience for a first-time caller. Thank you. All right. I did say that was the last call, but maybe I lied. Multiple people. Okay, one more call. Can we do that, Richard? Can we do that, Sarah? One more call?
Yeah. No problem.
One more call. All right. Okay. How you doing? You've made it through to the Baraka Show. You all right?
I'm good, Baraka. How are you?
I'm doing great. Thank you. So we're here live with Richard and Sarah White from Advanced UK.
Hi, Richard. Hi, Sarah.
Hi.
Hi there.
I've met Sarah on a few occasions, and we've got some friends that we both know. When was I last with Sarah? I think it was at Whitechapel when you was in your underwear, Sarah. When everything was going crazy down there.
The pink lady.
Yeah, I recognise your voice.
That's it. My
How
mum's
are
a pink lady, yeah.
How
your
are
mum's
you?
a pink
Are you
lady.
She is indeed.
Oh, great.
Yeah, I ain't going to give away who she is, Baraka, but yeah, my mum's a pink lady.
Right. Any questions, any concerns, any thoughts of the show so far? And
do you know what I heard? You know, stuff that's been said with regards to schools and that. You know, I grew up in the East End of London, and I grew up in a rough council estate, and it was rough growing up. You know, and I decided, you know what, if I ever had children, I'd make sure they never wanted for anything and never had to live the life that I had to live. You know, and I moved out into the country. You know, and because I see what was happening. You know, and we lived not too far from the Marriott in Chesham a number of years ago, and we see when the immigrants were moving in there, and we see what was going on, and over by Marks and Spencer's where we used to shop and all that, and we saw what was going on with all the thefts and everything else. So we decided, you know what, we're selling up, and we moved out even further into the countryside, and you know, we have a beautiful house in the country in the sticks, and it's lovely, and it's very affluent, and we're very fortunate that we don't have what is in London,
right.
You know, and we're very fortunate at that. You know, my children go to private school, you know, and that's not because anyone's give us the money for that. That's because we've worked really hard, you know, to provide for that. You know, because I didn't want my children going to a school where they're being dictated to what they have to study. They have to believe in this. They have to be able to read and understand people that do the Quran and everything else, and I'm not up for that. Sorry, it's not about being racist. You know, I'm a Christian. My children are Christian. You know, they go to a Christian private school. You know, they go to church. We go to church regularly. You know, and they understand the Bible. You know, and that's how it is, and that's how it should be, from my understanding. You know. And I'm not going to be dictated to by anyone any differently. You know, yet I feel that the government, you know, we all know, as you know, Baraka, I was at Whitechapel the other day and something happened, you know, there was an incident, you know, and, you know, without going into too much detail because of the situation, you can't walk around Whitechapel now, let me tell you that.
Right. Before we get into what happened to you at Whitechapel, I'm going to let Sarah come in and just respond to your thoughts there with also Richard as well. Sarah.
Yeah. To be honest, I think it's a real shame. It's like, you know, my parents moved out of the East End because they didn't want me growing up in an area which was...
Sarah, hold on. Can you hear Sarah?
I can't, no.
Okay. Sarah, say something.
Hello?
Did you hear that?
Better.
Is that better?
Yeah.
Oh, great.
Yep.
Yeah, so what I was saying is, isn't it a shame that you have to move out of an area that you was born in, that you would have been proud of? I was proud that I come from the East End, but my parents moved out because they didn't want me growing up in an area that was being taken over. And if you wanted your children to learn about the Quran, you would have either changed faith, or you would go and live in a country where, you know, it is a Muslim country. You are in a Christian country, but I think it's a terrible thing where you've moved from the East End, gone to an area, and then moved again. How many times have you got to move? How far have you got to move?
We won't be moving no more. We won't need to, Sarah. You know, where we are at the minute is, I won't disclose where we are, but it's very affluent. No. There's not one where we are.
Yeah, but it's not about that. It's about our government. So it's current and past governments have not protected us as a nation, and This is where the problems are. You shouldn't have had to have moved from where you was brought up unless you wanted to, not because.
If things were different, Sarah, I'd move back because I miss the East End of London. I miss it.
Me too. I love the East End. I'm proud of where I come from. Like how I believe that you should be proud of being British, I'm proud of being a Cockney. That's where I'm from. I'm from the East End.
Yeah, I'm born and bred Cockney.
Yeah. And I believe that being from the East End has its own culture. The same as if you're a Mancunian. You know, you have your own culture within that area.
Yeah, and we're a dying breed.
Right, yes, perfect. Let me get Richard here. Richard, you got something to say here. Richard, come in.
Yeah, no, you know, you're describing, you know, obviously you've moved back, but you was moving away, and obviously people are saying you can't escape it. It's happening nationwide. You know, this idea of you know, you can go to different areas and things like that. I know you understand. You said you've come back, but this problem is getting worse and worse and worse. It's going to continue getting worse and worse and worse. You know, this is the biggest issue in British politics that has been, you know, for some time now, and it's still not being addressed. And I'll still keep holding the government to account with their stupid slogan of "smash the gangs" because they've done nothing. They knew how big the problem was.
There is
They're
no
still in
gangs.
court.
The gangs are the government, Richard.
Yeah,
The gangs are the
you're
government.
right. You're right.
They are
You're
the
right.
biggest gang going. Yeah, they're so
Yeah.
corrupt. Yeah, and you look at who the councillors are and who's on, you know, on the council and everything else. It's all Muslims, and it's not about being racist. I'm stating facts here. Yeah, nothing's going to change until Labour get out. Yeah, but they ain't getting out yet. You know, and in some respects, I don't want them to get out yet because Advance is not ready yet. You know, to take over. You know, but I've been an Advance supporter from day dot. You know, and I know I've got friends that are in the college. You know, and nothing's going to change until they get out. Fact.
Right.
I agree. The concern we've got is when they get out, we need to make sure who gets in is going to have a clear,
we will.
held accountable to do it. Yeah, I believe that as well, and we'll do everything we can from Advance to make sure that we're prepared, we're ready.
We'll get in, and we'll join with Restore. We'll join with Rupert. 1,000,000%.
Yeah, great stuff.
That's my belief.
Great stuff, Linford. There's many people who are waiting on a call, but Linford,
no, go ahead, Baraka. Go ahead,
been
mate.
Great talking to you guys.
And you take care. Yeah, God bless.
Appreciate you. Thank you so much, Linford.
God bless. Bye bye.
Bye bye. Right, that is Linford. What a great guy. There's another caller here. I want him to come on. Hello, hi. How you doing? You made it through to the Baraka Show. How you doing? You all right?
Fine, yes, thank you.
Perfect. You got anything in your mind?
Yeah, I want to talk about the rape gang inquiry and what Advance UK are going to do to solve that, because the only party that have come out and done anything have sat down with survivors like Sammy Woodhouse, who was sexually abused. I was actually physically abused in care. A lot of people don't know about that in Galesland in Scotland. And Rupert Lowe has went out his way with Restore Britain and funded a private rape gang inquiry just across the road from Westminster. But no other party has seemed to do anything about this. And I wonder what Advance's position is in this.
Advance's position is the movement for Restore Britain was created the same day that Advance was. Advance was very much in support of that. I mean, Ben came out day one as a member and donated significant money to assist them in that endeavour. Obviously, Rupert, being a member of Parliament, was able to hold the inquiry and to be able to do those things. But it was, Advance is complete within support of that, and we'll be looking very closely at the national inquiry. We're looking very closely at Rupert's inquiry, what comes out of that, and we'll be considering what actions that we take following those things. Obviously, it'd be very handy for us to have Nick Buckley elected into Parliament, where we'll be able to spearhead those endeavours as well and hold people to account. Absolutely.
Sarah, let me just get Sarah White in. Sarah, any thoughts on this?
Yeah, no, I'd have to completely agree with Richard. We are in a slightly different position to Rupert, because obviously Rupert is an MP, and we need some sort of leverage within Parliament. So it's crucial for us to get Nick in as an MP. And like Richard said, we as a party have supported Rupert and the inquiry. So going forward, it's crucial these next couple of weeks, and hopefully Nick does become an MP, and then we will have our first seat.
Great stuff. Are you satisfied with that? Is that doing you good?
Yeah, I want to know, Baraka. I really want to know that.
Yeah, it's all right. Go ahead.
I accept Advance UK's position there that there's not any a sitting MP where Restore Britain have, and I understand that. But speaking as someone, a lot of people don't know this, but I'm happy to mention it. well, I'm not happy to mention it, but it's helpful to mention it, that when I was in jail zone residential school in Scotland, I was physically abused. I've been in touch with Sammy because I know she was sexually abused. She was one of the grooming gang people. Do you know what I mean? That was groomed by Pakistanis. Now, when there's private inquiry, going underway, if there's a case that needs to be brought in pressure to get convictions for these people, my case was slightly different. I was seen by the Scottish Child Abuse Inquiry. It's online. My name's Lewis. You can check it, Jails and School. Where Sammy Woodhouse has been dealt with a private one because it's more serious, to be fair, it's sexual abuse. Will Advance UK, if they get anyone elected, would they stand with Restore Britain and pursue criminal charges against these people? Because Advance has been quite quiet in this. Even at their conference, when I was down at their conference, I'm a member of Advance and Restore, but I'm a lot more impressed with what Restore's doing. It's calling a spade, and it's really taken head on. And I understand they've got a sitting MP, but they're taking it head on, this grooming gang inquiry, where Advance never mentioned it in their policies or any policies about what they would do about deportations or bringing back capital punishment for people that has attacked vulnerable girls or children in care.
So
yeah, I mean,
we
Go on, Sarah.
no,
go
go on,
ahead,
Richard.
sorry.
Go on, Richard.
So we support obviously Rupert with his grooming gang inquiry. At the time, Restore was a movement, and we were complete in alignment with their endeavours to try to do this grooming gang inquiry. We thought it was very important. We supported that. Ben obviously supported that financially. Many of us are also members of the movement and everything else. So completely in agreement with that. What comes out next is obviously we look at the evidence of those things and the national inquiry, depending on how weak that national inquiry is, and then we'll be creating our own policies. We'll be creating our own clear position on what needs to happen next. I appreciate Rupert has done his grooming gang inquiry. Rupert did that under Restore Britain as a movement, which we supported, right? We're, in terms of announcing things like, bringing back the death penalty and things like that, what you're hearing from Restore, and this Restore is Restore, so this isn't a criticism of them. This is just, they are bringing out sort of micro policies. They're saying, oh, we will do this, we will do that. And it's great for bringing traction. It's great for showing a clip on social media to say, this is what they think here, this is what they think here. What we're doing is slightly different, but very quickly we're rolling out policies, right? So we'll be saying within our sort of justice, law and order policy, we'll be outlining whether we agree or disagree, or under what conditions would there be the capital punishment and things like that. So, but in fact,
like they're saying that the support Restore Britain and their safeguard inquiry. Restore Britain have said if they get into power, categorically they will hold a referendum for the British people to bring back capital punishment. Would Advance UK do that in government? Would they support a referendum in the death penalty?
That's for the college to decide. I don't know really. I mean, personally, you can argue that people like and Rupert, I know you use the example of Axel Ruda Cabana, right? He's clear cut, guilty as sin, and he did the most horrific thing. And I don't really like the idea of the state having to fund people's existence, right? I don't see state penitentiaries as being a deterrent for people, right? For committing sins. It's not, what we think it was from looking at the old movies or something. It's actually quite a comfortable environment in many cases, right? So there does need to have that sort of say, and I'd leave that to the college to decide whether there should be a referendum. Any of our policies go.
It's not the members, so members of Advance UK would have a say whether they have a vote and bring it back to death penalty or not.
Absolutely.
Our members of the college, but you're just a member of the party, would you still have a say?
The college form the draft policies, right? The members are constantly able to comment on those policies.
So I'm a member of Restore Britain and Advance UK. So if there was a vote as a current member of Advance UK, would I get a say in whether we should bring back the death penalty? Because I 100% support it for these people that have molested wee girls up and down Britain, and people that have been abused in care like Sammy Woodhouse. I would support that. And that's what impresses me about Restore Britain. They're saying categorically they'd bring back the death penalty and they'd give a vote for it to the people. Would Restore Britain do that? You're saying the college would get to vote on it, but what about people like me and people that are not a member of the college but are also a member of Advance UK as well? Would they get a vote on it?
you get a say on everything that we do, everything. You know, forget about a one-off referendum. You get to comment and feedback on everything. I mean, you know, I'll reiterate the point again that we made earlier. We're 8 months old, right? It was only the 6th of December we actually went through the Electoral Commission to be a party. We've done more in that 8 months than any party's done in history. That's genuine. So we will continue to do that. Once we've rolled out the structure fully, we'll then start looking to actively ask our members lots of different questions on policy, have that feedback, have that looped back into the college to instruct on policy. That's why everything we're putting out is draft. It's draft for a reason, because people like you as a member need to have your say to help inform what we do, right? That's the whole point.
I just think we need to be more radical. That's what I like about Restore Britain. They're being radical. I'm a member of both parties, but like they're saying categorically they'd have a referendum on bringing back the death penalty, would unequivocally ban halal, the niqab and the burqa. Impressed by Ben, I'll give him his due, he said he'd ban the niqab and the burqa. It's not part of Christian culture in Britain. But he mentioned nothing about banning halal or kosher because it's unpopular, because it's unpopular among some people, especially among the pro-Israel lobby. And I'm pro-Israel, but I'd still ban kosher. I'm a Christian first. This is Britain. It's unethical slaughter of animals. But Advance UK have been kind of quiet on that. Well, the death penalty.
We've said we would ban halal.
Been more forward.
Sorry, I've lost you there. We've said within our policies that we would ban halal and kosher. We would stop imports of that as well.
Yeah, and also the hijab and the niqab with the burqa. We said we would ban the burqa and the niqab. So they're cultural preferences.
Yeah. Was that okay with you?
Yeah, I couldn't really hear his reply to the last part. It kind of broke up, but yeah, he's saying what he's saying. I mean, Advance UK is an alright party. I just don't think they're as forthright as Britain.
No, Richard,
Restore Britain, sorry. I keep saying Britain first. Restore Britain are calling a spade a spade. That's something that concerns me, you know.
How radical would you want the party to go?
I want them to turn around and say they'll bring back the capital punishment for everyone that harmed a little girl up and down England and Scotland. I think these people should be sentenced to death. These people that have molested the innocent girls like Sammy Woodhouse when she was younger. All right, I was abused and cared, but I wasn't sexually abused, I was physically abused. People that harmed me as a little boy, they should be punished. Maybe not sentenced to death, but they should be punished. Right, but there's nothing being mentioned about that. The same that the Advanced College would get a vote. What about the members? It's not a member of the Advanced College, they're just saying they would get a say. You know, what about banning halal and kosher? We're a Christian country. We're not a Muslim country, we're not a Jewish country, we're a Christian country. Everyone's welcome, but we're a Christian country.
All right, Richard. Sarah White is going to respond to you and just clarify everything that Advance UK stands for.
So basically, Richard did just say that we have said that we would ask for halal and kosher to be banned anyway, and banning import of halal. So that is something that we did release the other week in our policies, and we would be banning the burqa and the niqab because they're cultural preferences. So that is something that Advance stands firmly on.
Right. Richard.
Yeah, thanks. So, I mean, as Sarah just said, right, there's like a cigarette paper between Advance and Restore. The difference with Advance and Restore is that, you know, we announce our policies, right, because they're pretty much the same. Right? You're quoting things that really aren't what we stand for. Right? We would ban, as Sarah said, you know, halal, kosher, non-stun type slaughter. We would stop imports of that. We would ban the burqa and all other things like that. That's all within there. When I say about the college forming policy, right, it doesn't mean that you don't get a say as a member. You do get a say. Absolutely, you do get a say. You know, in terms of how robust we are, we're just as robust as Restore. The difference is that I think that they announce micro policies where they say, we're going to do this, we're going to do that, we're going to do the other. And that's great. That's working for them. We're also going to be doing things on social media. Like I said, we've been focusing on a lot of things within Advance, and we formulated some policies. We'll be formulating legislation for those policies, and we're setting up a network of our structure as well. So we're doing everything at once pretty quickly. We'll be more muscular in the way that we convey that in the future. But actually, everything that you're saying that, Restore are doing, Advance are doing. When you talk about capital punishment, I don't know. I don't know really what the college is going to come down on. But if you as a member have an issue with that and you want to send your feedback in, then it gets listened to. That's what will happen. So, you definitely get a say. And as I said, we're just as robust as Restore. We just go about things in a more democratic way.
Great stuff. Thank you so much for calling. Thank you for being a part of the show. I appreciate you so much.
God bless you, Baraka.
Thank you. Appreciate you, sir.
Bye-bye.
Cheers. Bye-bye. Right, there is one caller who I would want to have, who was, before I let you guys know, I know Sarah is like, oh, I want to go, I got things to do, but there is one person who...
If you've not said Barack, don't put words into my mouth.
Right, but there's one caller who has been trying to call in since the phone calls were open, and every time she called, we missed. Every time she called, we got somebody else called. And we picked up something else. I think she wants to have a call. She's been trying to get through since the start. So I'm going to give her a moment for her to call in. And then after that, we can say goodbye. And I think it's been a great show, to be fair. So here's the call that's coming in. I think this is the one. I hope so. Hello, hi. I'm assuming this is Emma.
Yeah, it's Emma.
How you doing? You all right?
I'm all right, thank you. Thank you for taking my call.
Yeah.
I'm concerned as a disabled person and a sick person,
right.
And it feels to me that I kind of messaged Ben, and he never responded. I also saw him being interviewed by Richard Inman, and it just feels to me that whenever a new government come in, they attack the sick and the disabled and those that are being cared for. And I'm just wondering what the policy will be if Advance get in, what they will do to help us and not force us to work like they always say, that we're just lingering and work shy, and it's not like that. And it's a very difficult system to navigate, and it's not something you can just get. You have to send up loads of evidence before you even get to an assessment. And I'm just wondering, what you can do about that for people like myself.
Right, Richard.
No, it's a a very, I suppose, anxious topic for a lot of people that genuinely need the help, right? And as a civilized country, completely understand and would support anyone who really needs that help. That's what the system is there for. I think that we can all agree that I believe that the system is being abused by people that don't need it, which impacts people like yourself, who I've got no doubt is in need of that support as a sick person, right? So this is fundamental that this has been dealt with properly, because it impacts you the most, right? If people are abusing the system. So Advance is a party that believes deeply in its citizens and stands by its sort of principles in terms of having a sensible, mature responsibility to the people that it represents to make sure that they're protected. We're currently spending billions on in benefits for people that aren't citizens of the United Kingdom, right? So we can address this in a much more efficient way, and we can ensure that the people that genuinely need that support absolutely get that support completely. In fact, there may be efficiencies are being made that we can do more for a lot of the people that need help, right? But we need to make sure that the people that need the help are getting the help. I think that's the biggest thing, and I'd imagine that's quite a big concern of yours as well.
Right, I'm going to bring in Sarah as well. I think Sarah has something to say regarding the government always coming in, and the first group that they always attack is usually vulnerable people, the children, the disabled, and the elderly. Now, Sarah, Talk to me. Well, talk to the caller.
Yeah, no, the government always attacks the vulnerable or leaves them out because it's the easiest group of people to just, dismiss, because they're usually the people that haven't got others speaking out for them. And that I've done a lot of work for families with disabled children, and I used to work in a special needs school as well. So I know the failings of what happens within government and local authorities. And, I do know that when the policies are looked at, people need to be treated as individuals, because every single case is completely individual. We know that no two disabilities are the same. And when you're having families, say, with young children that have got disabilities, where you're having a child that's got autism being treated exactly the same on the spectrum as a child that has got brain damage, these two should not be compared with one another. They have to be individual cases. So I know that as a party, I would be encouraging Advance to really look at the system and hope that people with disabilities are looked at and treated fairly rather than being dismissed. And I know that people within the college, this is why the beauty of the college is, because it will be people with lived experiences that will be writing the policies and coming up with legislations and, representing people with disabilities.
Yeah. Emma.
I couldn't hear a word what either of them were saying, but I will flick back and see what it is they were saying to me.
Right. Well, that's all. Well, we're gonna try to fix the system here so you guys, the callers, can hear us as well. But thank you so much, Emma, for calling in. Is there anything else that you have in your mind or question?
No, not really. I was just, concerned for the disability community and things. But I appreciate all three of you, and I love what you do. Keep carrying on, and hello to all the chatters.
Thank
you very much. Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Right now. Cheers. Yeah. Okay, that's the last call. All right, folks. I'm gonna turn this phone off. So
I think you need to check the system, Barak.
say it again.
I think you need to check the system.
For sure, definitely. But last question here before I let you guys go. I think you guys have seen it on the screen. I think me and Richard kind of spoke on this at the before we went live, and it was about the ill treatment that they've given to Nick Butley, and it looks like the audience at home are also noticing as well. But here's the question: so, Richard, do you know why Nick Butley was the only candidate from Manchester not to invite to Manchester News and BBC debate, which is disgraceful?
It's disgraceful. It's very suspicious, isn't it, why that happened? I mean, before these debates, these hustings took place, there was another one that was a local one. It wasn't run by BBC or Manchester News. It was run by the locals. And Nick turned up to speak to the locals, and noticeable absence was the candidate for Reform. Reform are very, very aggressive, I will say, in the way that they treat the media. I'm not suggesting that perhaps maybe that they've applied pressure there, but it seems very suspicious to me that they allowed our candidate not to take place. They should be defending democracy as robustly as they pretend to be when the elections are seemingly being cancelled, right? I mean, Nick Butley is genuinely an upstanding member of that community that's been there doing incredibly hard work for decades. He got an MBE. He was awarded, because of the hard work that he's done in terms of making that community better. He put all of his money when he got made redundant from the Manchester Council. He put that straight into a charity and then set about making the place better. He's got a proven track record of doing that, and he's a local person, so he should have been really sort of championed by the local people. There should be uproar about that, regardless of what rosette you wear. You want people to participate properly in democracy. And I'm really sort of frustrated that that's what happened. And I think that someone should have to answer for that, really, and give the reasons as to why that is.
Yeah, I kind of share the same concerns because I was there at the the hosting in Manchester where it looks like Reform UK have done everything to basically not confront or not be in the same room with Nick Butley. I want to go to you, Sarah, before we wrap up. Why do you think that is? Why do you think Manchester Evening News would not invite him? And why do you think BBC debate, meaning everybody meant to be there, but apart, they didn't invite this person? Do you think Reform UK is pulling the strings? Because he's the only candidate who has not been in the same room with Nick Butley.
Well, there's definitely questions that need to be answered, isn't there? And at the end of the day, why was he not invited? Because he's basically the one true candidate. He deserves to have that seat. And they, as a community, deserve to have Nick representing them because nobody knows that area better than Nick. He's worked immensely hard over the years, decades in fact, and he knows what local people want. He knows what the working man wants. He knows the struggles of the local communities and he has represented them for years. Hence the reason he got an MBE for his work. So, that is why he wasn't invited, because if he wasn't a threat to them, he would have been sitting there.
Yeah, I agree. I think they do not want to go against him. They don't want to face him on. But how was that, folks? How was that for a good live stream to basically get some clarity? I think we got some clarity here.
Mm-hmm.
What you say?
Yeah, great, Barak. Thank you for having me on.
Yeah, thank you for coming on. I really do appreciate your time. I know it was promised 2 hours, but it happened to be here for at least 3 hours now.
Oh no, is that how long we've been here?
Well, we meant to start at 4 o'clock and finish at 6, but it's 6:49, 48, 6 now, so it's about to hit 7 o'clock, which is gonna make it 3 hours.
I'm turning up on crutches tomorrow, guys.
Why is that?
Because I fell out of my van.
Oh no, God.
Yeah.
Thank you so much, Richard, for coming on. I appreciate you. Is there any message for the viewers to take back from this? Any message from Advance, from yourself? What would you like people to take away from here?
No, I want everyone to support Nick Buckley and to support Advance UK. There's obviously a lot of things that's going on at the moment in terms of right of centre politics with the emergence of Restore and Advance and things like that. It's business as usual for us. We set out on this mission to make sure that we bring accountability back into politics. Politics has got enough messiahs and Caesars in it. We genuinely need accountability. And we want to open the door and work with anybody that's willing to sit down and discuss things, because there's nothing more important in this country and defending it. And we can only do that collectively, together, sensibly. There's no egos here. And that's what we're focusing on. So it's business as usual for us. And we'll keep fighting the good fight for all of our many members.
That's it, folks. You've heard it here. The good fight continues. So no more confusion, just clarity moving forward. Advance UK will continue advancing. Now, let's get a couple words from, of course, Sarah. Sarah, what's your thoughts? What should people at home take away from here?
You know what? People just need to ignore the noise that's going on in politics at the moment and just remember why Advance started. We are the party led by the people, for the people. We are, we want to represent local communities. We want people in local communities representing the people of that area. So hence the reason why Nick Buckley is a true candidate for Gaunton and Denton, because he is going to represent his local area. And I would just urge everybody to focus on what's at hand, get behind Advance UK, and we will carry on. And like Richard said, business as usual. We won't be, jumping ship anytime, and we are going to be loyal to Advance UK and to Ben Habib.
Right. Thank you so much, guys. Thank you so much, Richard, for coming on. Thank you, Sarah, for coming on. I'll see you guys tomorrow. I think there's something big happening tomorrow, folks. We're going to be live on the Baraka Show. I believe, we'll be live. We'll be live there. And we're going to hear more from Richard tomorrow. We're also going to hear more from Sarah tomorrow and many other people as well, including Ben. So if you have any questions to Ben, comment down below. The team will pick it up and will obviously try to have it with me so I can ask him and you guys can hear it from him. But folks, thank you so much for tuning in. If you're new to the channel, again, make sure you like, comment, and subscribe. As you already know, this is not a regular broadcast. This is the Baraka Show, coming to you live from Greater Manchester, United Kingdom. Thank you so much, folks. For very long, and every time you try to resist, they put you in jail. For my children. They control your mind for so long to the point where you let them decide what your kids should learn, what gender they will be, and now you've let them to come for the whole nation, destroying what Britain once stood up for. They use this media machine not to report the facts to you, but to tell you what to think and what you should do. Always be careful. They're hiding the facts behind the noise, and they're recruiting pedophiles to tell you how to behave. And these politicians you meant to protect you, they're out there smashing your head on the ground. And no jail time for them. This road we've been on has been very dark for a very long time, and it's time to shine a light on the truth and advocate for justice. We the people make the nation, and if we don't stand up and advocate for justice, then we certainly won't make this nation great again. So we have to create a place for that, a place that can contribute to a more informed society. And that place is Next Frontier Media.